Like a swarm of ice bats bursting from the frost hollow, screeching out discordance at the establishment, wreaking havoc through the vox waves of the Underhive, we are the true sound of rebellion. 665.66 UHMR Chemrat Radio.
From the heat wave last week to the hive snow choke in the corridors this week, it's been a rough one, Gabo. I gotta tell you. At least we don't have to worry about the day-gone cult killings that are painting the red spires. I'll tell you what. We are one more serial killer away from the new Pick Screen franchise.
Yeah, I hear that. We are coming to you live from the Cracked Elysium, awaiting the murder-lodious sonic mayhem of Saint Mischief, Innsmouth's newest electro-death trio. Looking for those chromed-out extensions, since I can't generate my own bioplasma, I am your guide through the tangled vox waves, Goblin King. Joined today by my ever-present and mostly maniacal, well-adjusted co-pilot, the mauled mauler of Misfit Alley, Marky.
Hello, everyone.
Always keeping us on the straight and narrow. As long as that means we are completely unhinged and unrestrained, is the polar bear himself, Chuckerfly.
Hello, everyone. Hope you brought your straws for this ride.
Gracing us once again with her immaculate sense of blood splatter. Not analysis, we mean application. It's Emmy.
Hello, everyone.
And back from his most recent trip out on site, reporting directly every game of the Sump Vat Ratcatchers is Kev, although I'm pretty sure you didn't report the last two.
Nah, the dude just dropped dead in the middle of the field, and they called the game. And after that, it wasn't really worth paying attention.
Just Amisex all around, who cares?
Yeah, might as well. Go touch basket.
Go touch basket. Welcome to episode 62 of Under the Hive of Madness. This is our Tyranid Part 3.5 episode, where we'll dive into the bioforms and the faction to pull apart all of those gooey body horror bits that we want to dissect in more detail. Ever since the release of Ridley Scott's 1979 horror classic Alien, popular horror culture has become more focused on the alien, or xenomorph, as a vessel for splatter and grindhouse gore. From the resurgence of the kaiju to the prevalence of Cronenbergian horror appearing in cartoons, even down to things like Rick and Morty, the history of the horror fiction and horror cinema is full of giant bugs, mutants, and gross, half-understood monstrosities. Jeff Goldblum turning into a fly? Come on.
I had an issue the other night.
Uh-oh.
So I think I mentioned this either on the Patreon content or sub to our Patreon, shameless plug. I talked about how I was watching Starship Troopers and Blue Gender, which is an old school anime that I was watching.
Blue Gender is so good.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Kevin. Finally.
Well, I haven't watched it. I watched it, and I could have sworn that nobody else has ever heard of it.
Somebody understands. I love
awesome.
Blue. It's one of my favorites. I was watching it, and I was telling the wife, and I'm like, yeah, you got to watch this. And she's like, is it like Starship Troopers? And I'm like, no, it's a little different.
So just so you know, there is more of it.
We're gonna have to talk about this later.
Yeah, there was one that came out probably like 5 years ago. Was another extension of that story.
Okay, we're gonna we're gonna have a conversation.
Yeah.
And apparently that night, my son woke up in the middle of the night, and he's like, "Oh, big bugs." my wife said that she looked at me and she never wanted to punch me in the face so badly before
because she knew it was your fault.
And she looked at me, and I just kind of snored and rolled over. And then in the morning, she told me, and I was like, "No, he's fine. It's fine. He's fine.
He's fine." I don't know, that movie as a child would probably be terrifying.
Yeah,
or show or whichever one it is.
A new segment on the podcast every episode.
I'll just
classic weeb shit
for you.
Oh man,
it is classic weeb, but it's good classic weeb. It's not classic weeb like Dragon Ball English dub.
Oh, that was an experience.
For some reason, the Alien franchise and later films like Starship Troopers seem to have had a large impact on gaming in general. As we've mentioned earlier in this series, the Zerg from StarCraft are only one link that goes back to the ideas of kind of bioorganic warrior bugs that seem capable of self-adaptation and evolution. As Marky was just bringing up, there's this Blue Gender show. Large alien bugs seem to have made the transition from horror to sci-fi to gaming in general real smoothly. I mean, even World of Warcraft has the The Tyranid
Yeah,
warrior
the
things that live in the
Scythids.
desert.
Yeah, the Scythids of Scythilis.
Yeah, that look like
Magic
fucking.
Gathering
They-
has them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, if they own the rights to use the 3D models because it's all Blizzard, then they might as well recycle as many 3D models as they can.
That's true.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
That's
just
true.
got done watching because we've been having movie marathons as a family. We got done with The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. We were going to do Terminator, but my daughter decided that she wanted to do Godzilla franchise. So I showed her like the
Oh,
old
yeah.
90s ones.
That explains why that was on TV earlier.
Yeah, and we just got done today with Godzilla King of Monsters. We got to watch Shin Godzilla. I haven't seen it yet, but I heard good things.
Mhm.
Did you watch the 1990s Matthew Broderick film?
Yes, that was the first one we started with. That one's great.
Let's talk about
The
Sorry.
that.
iguana.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We don't
Hey.
talk about that film.
Hey,
I
come on,
actually
I
really enjoyed it.
Thank you,
Oh,
Kevin.
No,
I
Thank you.
enjoy. Okay, having not seen the classics except like in clips of them, kind of
Yes.
to make and they're always used to show how bad those movies are.
Agreed. Yes.
That was a good movie to entertain American audiences
Thank you.
who were not pre-exposed to the story.
Thank you.
If you don't know anything about Godzilla and that movie comes on, you're like, "This is pretty cool."
I got to go see it in the movie theater.
Yeah,
Buddy and I
me
went
too.
and saw it, and I got to listen to all the comments from other people about that movie, and I agreed with them.
About
You know what really grinds my gears? Kevin and
Exactly.
Marky right now.
hey,
Darn.
hey, all right.
You're just mad because I backed him up on Blue Gender.
Thank you. Yeah, usually I'm alone here on this podcast. Nobody understands me. So it's finally nice to have somebody have my back.
It's good to be
That's,
back.
that's
Hey,
all I
hey,
gotta
like,
It's
say.
good to be
Hey,
back.
like half the time you and I like the same crappy movies, just this time we don't. It's fine.
No, I don't remember, Ryan. I'm sorry. Because you didn't back me this time, I don't remember any of those other times.
Here comes the teardrops.
Yeah, I need to get the sad violin music out.
Sorry, I am a Godzilla purist, and you have to
Oh.
start in 1954 in black and white. And
Oh,
and
my-
the
I
master-
would.
No.
I would just so I could, because I mean I enjoy it. There's nothing. That's why I wanted to watch like Shin Godzilla. It's like a new take on the old school. But my
Mhm.
daughter could not sit through black and white movies. Like it's not happening.
Did you ever watch Crank 2 High Voltage?
Yeah, I fucking
So,
love that movie.
I completely blanked out the whole sequence where he like shocks himself to keep his heart going or whatever, and he turns into a giant monster. And
I don't know
it's
what movie
it's
it is.
Jathan Statham
You've
wearing
never
like
seen Crank?
monster prosthetics fighting
I've
another
never
guy
seen-
wearing monster prosthetics, but they look
Yeah.
like their own faces in like a giant set. And it's totally
Dude,
ripping on the old
it's
kaiju
amazing.
movies. It's pretty fucking great.
Dude, this guy's on the verge of death.
What year did this come out?
I know he basically
Early
like
2000s.
keeps doing
Mid-2000s.
amphetamine to keep his heart rate up or something.
Yeah,
that's
so
the,
he
that's the
stabs
first
himself.
one. That's the first
Okay.
one.
Yeah, the first one so he's dying because he's poisoned. And he stabs himself with adrenaline
Yeah, he has to
He's-
keep adrenaline going the entire movie.
to survive, and then he
Yeah.
dies.
You got
He
you
has no adrenaline.
But then he lives.
because he gets adrenaline.
you need to watch the movie. So the Crank movies are like Hollywood
Movies?
there's two of them. They're like Hollywood making fun of the action movies of like the late 90s, early 2000s.
So like
But it's-
Last Action Hero.
But yes, the humor
Yeah.
is on that level, but you can also just watch them as insane like John Wick-esque action films too.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
They're good.
They're
They're
good.
amazing. I love them.
Last Action Hero is really good because of the jokes that it was telling, but Crank
I
is
think
like
Yeah.
taking another step out.
It's
Like-
like the raunchy version of Last Action Hero, I guess you could say.
Oh, then I would probably like it if it's raunchy.
Yeah, it's definitely raunchy.
My favorite part of Last Action Hero is when his ex-wife calls and he like
The
puts the
credits.
phone on the recorder, and the recorder is just him going, "Yeah, mm-hmm, Okay. yeah." And like the whole idea that would work when I was like 8 and that movie came out, I was like, "This is amazing." I don't know if I'd find it funny anymore, but back when I was 8, it was the best joke in that movie. To get into the Tyranid bioforms, the first thing that we need to talk about is Synapse Link and Synapse bioforms. As we've mentioned, Tyranids operate under a shared collective psychic bond called the synapse, as a swarm is massive enough that controlling it any other way would be near impossible. This Gestalt cloud consciousness allows it to act kind of as a single superorganism. As we mentioned a couple of episodes ago, this allows the Tyranid warrior forms and the Hive ships to act with unparalleled coordination, even on a planetary scale. So a change in the prey species' way of fighting on the Western Front, for instance, can be instantly communicated to the Eastern Front, allowing the Tyranids on the Eastern Front to react to the change in tactics before the Imperium actually implements them. Every Tyranid has a place in this system, which is a reflection of the will of the hive mind as a total, no matter how small or mindless they might seem. However, lesser or smaller bioforms are essentially mindless and instinctive animals, performing their tasks with no conscious effort of will themselves. In order to curtail this, larger and more complex bioforms are granted a measure of sentience, allowing for more than instinctual reaction to a given situation or stimuli, with specialized synapse creatures allowing the will of the hive mind to be distributed even more completely across the ranks of smaller, lesser creatures. While Tyranids don't have a traditional command structure, these specific creatures are the closest to filling those roles. So as we start to talk about the bioforms, we'll use terms like commander, we mean synapse creature. They often have expanded sentience, allowing them to react and make decisions without the greater directive of the hive mind, decisions that are needed to match things on the evolving battlefield. The hive mind, depending on what it is, and there's theories on what it is, which we probably won't really jump into in depth here, but I'm sure we will at some future point, doesn't necessarily control the minutia of the battle. It goes eat this planet, and then it goes to another hive fleet, eat this planet. It's playing a different level of the strategy game. It's playing Civilization 6 while the Synapse creatures are playing StarCraft 2. The Synapse creatures, the Hive Tyrants
like
and stuff, they've got to react to the battlefield rather than to the entire deployment. Without the Synapse link, lesser Tyranids revert to their basic instinctual creature behaviors, either fleeing or rampaging across the battlefield. While they are still extremely dangerous, they are no longer on a coordinated level. They've reverted to instinctual individual level, and they're a lot easier to deal with. As soon as you don't have a bunch of termagants swarming on you, you have a bunch of singular termagants rampaging off in different directions, you can pull resources. You know, if a horde of termagants, if a termagant brood is tearing through your Imperial Guardsmen and you kill the Hive Tyrant and all of the termagants start to scatter, you just pull your guardsmen off field, you put them in a bunker, and the termagants just fucking leave because they try to find something to fight. If you pull them and put them in the bunker while the Hive Tyrant is there, the termagants are going to be like, ooh, there's a nice gooey surprise inside of that bunker, and they're going to attack it until they can get in.
Because Daddy said so.
Yeah, I would think of it like, almost like a pack of wolves, and once that pack of wolves loses its alpha, they all kind of scatter, but they're dangerous on an individual level, but they no longer have like that group coherency that the alpha like implies on them.
I kind of see them. I like that analogy, but it like maybe if raccoons acted like that, because every time I hear or like read a story, every time you read a story about like an individual cornered Tyranid, it's like a raccoon. Raccoons get ridiculously more dangerous, angry and vicious when they're alone and cornered.
Yeah. When there's three of them rooting through your trash can and you're yelling at them with a flashlight at 3 a.m, they don't really give a shit. But suddenly,
when there's one in your basement.
But you get one alone in your basement, and suddenly the thing just thinks you're about to commit a war crime.
So it wants to commit a war crime first.
Yeah, and it will war crime you in return.
Trash panda becomes trash brown bear.
Oh yeah, it goes real quick from panda to grizzly.
Yeah. So synapse creatures are often also the ones that have the highest amounts of psychic potential, but somehow they still manage to not draw the attention of demons through the warp.
Interesting.
Emmy.
It's because they don't have souls.
I fucked up.
It makes sense.
You're right. I like that theory, but I screwed up. I know you had some questions about our last episode, and I totally forgot to give you the floor.
What did I forget?
There's a notebook.
Oh God, what did I forget that I said that I have to defend now?
Okay. All right.
Chuck's like a trash panda. You got him cornered right now. He's rabid.
Hey, I have fought a trash panda.
I have not. I
had a lot of edible before I wrote these down.
Oh,
So just-
okay.
Interesting.
But a little reflective.
Okay.
Glorious.
It's okay.
I wrote, how are the fucking Tyranid Hive Fleets more diverse than the legions of the Sisters of Battle?
Interesting.
I was like,
Well, you see,
Why do you say that?
I'm
Because of
saying
the
that,
color
like-
schemes?
like color schemes, but also attack strategies. Like if you know anything about like the different abilities of like the Ebon Chalice or the White,
Oh, yeah.
whatever, right? Like, and lore wise too, right? Like these ones wear latex. These ones wear leather. These ones, it's like,
I
okay,
think-
very cool.
so
I think to answer that question, it would basically just be that the Tyranid form is constantly changing and evolving.
Hmm.
So you're more likely to end up with something different every time, especially if it's going from different kinds of battlefield. Like if it goes to a frozen planet, to a swamp planet, to a desert planet, like it's gonna build up a bunch of unique traits.
Kevin's
There's
like,
the
I
lore
see your
answer.
dab and I raise
That's
you a
the lore
dab.
answer.
Yeah,
She
yeah, yeah.
The
Let's
other-
dab
the-
and talk science. I'm down.
the other answer.
Boys in space. There's like 18 legions, right? And 2 missing ones, but 18
Mhm.
legions of very distinct, different boys in space. The girls in space get some are black, some are red, some are white.
The other answer that the answer that you're striving for here is that socially unadjusted males are much better at describing and coming up with new bugs than they are about talking to or about women.
Well, they've probably interacted with more bugs than they have with women. So,
Yeah.
so a red dressed girl, a girl wearing black, and a girl wearing white. That's the 3 girls they've met in their life. That's all of them. That's it.
Well,
And they all look like the extra from
And they
Hot
all
My
go to
Teacher
church.
by
Yeah,
Twisted Sister.
what I'm gonna say is it's like so with the Sisters of Battle and the lore, it's like a certain structure, and the Imperium's stuck in a certain state.
Yeah, it's the
And so
religious.
It's the religious
stagnation.
militant arm of the church. This is what works for us. This is how we're gonna be.
It's almost like custodes, right?
Episodes, yeah.
It's like Ultramarines, the Codex Sororitas.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but again, the Codex. When you read lore, the Ultramarines bend it and think outside of it.
Oh yeah, but they
It's-
just claim
it's-
that
what is
whatever
that
it is.
movie?
Hey, when
Loose
your
Rules or something.
when your space daddy, when your specific space daddy rewrote Space Granddaddy's rules, you're allowed to break them. No one else, not a single one of your other cousins can break them, but you can break Space Daddy's rules.
They're more like guidelines.
That's
and-
it.
And so can and
That's
and,
what I was thinking of.
I was
and so can Uncle Lehman Russ's boys because they just never listened anyway.
Well, yeah, nobody expected them to behave.
Yeah,
But-
not to mention Space Marines are like the golden child of 40k, so of course they're going to be like the most fleshed out, diversified army compared to a lot of other
I mean,
armies.
so you have
Yeah.
But,
overroided power fantasy that goes fast. You have overroided power fantasy that builds walls. You have overroided power fantasy that pretends to have a book.
So I haven't read all the lore and all the new codexes
The only interesting one is Deathwatch.
stuff
you.
lately,
Thank you.
Emmy. But have you on Sisters of Battle? Have you read a lot of stuff on Sisters of Battle?
A fair bit of it, yes.
So
But- Yeah.
so I know in the novels, there's a lot more leeway in novels.
right.
Mhm.
In the novels, the authors, especially, like again, it's been a minute since I've read, and I've got a couple I really like. They it's really loose. Like the sisters, they're Grey Knights have a novel. They have 3 books that were in a row that I read.
Yeah,
Sisters
I
of
read that
Battle
one.
are in one of them,
Getting
and
massacred.
and the canon is straight up so flexible. It knows about warfare and knows things she's not supposed to know about. Is able to adapt and do things really freaking quick. Where I get what you're saying. Like a lot of time, everybody ever reads certain things. Bugs are bugs. They're an insect. They get to do
Yeah.
stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
the other thing that's going on is that Tyranids have been a mainstay since 2nd edition, or
Yeah.
really since Rogue Trader. And they've kind of always their lore has just evolved since then. The sisters were in 2nd edition and 3rd edition, and then they kind of went away until like 8th.
Away.
And then they came back in 8th, and they're kind of going through, you know, when Necrons first came out, Necrons had very little lore because there just hadn't been a lot of time or experience with them yet. I think the other thing, and I know a little bit about the basis for the sisters because I know a lot about the Age of Apostasy. The sisters came out of, you know, before the Sisters of Battle existed, the Ecclesiarch had its own militant branch. They had their own branch, essentially, of the Imperial Guard. The Fraternus something. I can't remember
I have a document somewhere, but yes.
The something Fraternus. And what ended up happening was the High Lord of Terra that was responsible for running the Administratum became the High Ecclesiarchy as well. He did it through assassination. And he was able to centralize a bunch of power a lot the way that Horus had. And then the Sisters of Silence, who were a group he had found and had made like his inner court, were taken by the Custodes into the throne room of the Emperor.
Yep, and
it's the head,
the head one, the main one for the tired ladies or whatever it is.
The Sisters of Silence, not the Sisters of Silence.
No, Emperor's Brides.
The Emperor's Brides. She's one of the only mortals who's talked to the Emperor since he was put into the throne. And whatever he told her, she interpreted and took out. Yeah. And a big part of that was when Goj Van Dyer was deposed and replaced by Sebastian Thor. Sebastian Thor wrote into the new laws that never again would the Ecclesiarchy have men at arms.
Yes.
And the Sororitas are the loophole because they are not men at arms.
Yep.
And that binds the sisters to a very, very specific set of rules. However, I think a lot more of it is just not a lot of fiction has been written about him yet. In the Skarmarg worlds, which are my subsector that I wrote before we started the podcast. The Sons of Lothgramar, which is my Imperial Guard army, is actually formed by Imperial Guard regiment that was controlled by the sisters because so many of the sisters and so many of the Space Marines had died in this isolated part of the galaxy that they had to pull their resources. So it stopped being a Space Marine unit and a sisters unit, and it became one military unit. And that had been passed down into the Imperial Guard. So the Imperial Guard venerate anybody in sisters armor as being like special warriors of the Guard. They don't even see them as a different unit. And I think that's just like, you get to start playing around with lore. And anyway, I think I do think a lot of it though goes back to like the sisters just haven't been in play that long.
Yeah.
Realistically. But at the same time, I think a lot of it is also just like, you know, if you have a weird, when you're playing with when you're playing with human physiology, you're stuck to a head, 2 arms, 2 legs, and a trunk. When you're playing with alien physiology, you're like, okay, well, we've got a head and a thorax and a tail. Let's add some arms. Let's add some more arms. Cool. Let's add some tentacles. Like there's nothing binding you to a rule set with Tyranids, realistically.
That's true. The sky's the limit, whatever. Okay, here are the other very hard-hitting questions that I wrote down.
Hot takes.
So I was reading through that sort of Magos biologist part where they're studying the Tyranids. And I wrote down, why did they not try to eat one?
The Catachans have, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Catachans eat them.
Yeah.
And then the follow-up question was, what do they taste like?
Marines will eat them.
Chicken.
Space
chicken.
Space chicken.
I feel like they taste like crustaceans.
Yeah, I would imagine
probably.
it tastes something like lobster.
Like crab leg?
Yeah, I would imagine it being like super Cajun spicy, you know, because their blood's acidic.
Why is this spicy?
So it would, but I would imagine it just being like super spicy. But yeah,
agreed. Pre-seasoned.
Yeah.
Pre-seasoned.
Like butt burner level shrimp.
A 2 heartburn.
Yeah,
there's a Catachan unit that has a name because they eat Tyranids, and then Space Marines have eaten Tyranids before to like Because
That's
Space
metal.
Marines can eat shit and like get part of its
Get
memory.
knowledge.
Yep.
Yeah.
If they eat the brain, to get
Which
part
is one of the
knowledge.
weirdest parts of the
Right, I
lore.
read about that. That's fucked up.
It's a
And-
super strange part of Space Marine lore, and it's very rarely explored.
Oh,
And
Yeah.
it's honestly, in my opinion, one of the dumbest ones
oh,
because it
it's-
doesn't really make that much sense to me.
You guys remember
Yeah.
that movie, Warm
What's
Bodies?
the ability named? again?
Yeah,
I assume it's something similar to that.
yeah, probably.
What the organ is called? It's one of the weirder ones.
Isn't it like the asthma phobia something?
I don't know.
Yeah.
The prostate
Brain-
something.
Brain organ.
No, that's the one that makes you go.
Because
They
they eat it.
ablamdula ablamgada.
Gotta.
No, that's why they so ornery with all them teeth and no toothbrush.
Because they're able to eat the brain and they get the knowledge of that creature for a while.
Yeah.
Like, it fades away, which is key. Think about it in battles. Because again,
Yeah, you get intel.
in a book I read one time. I know Marky doesn't read books.
That
Ultramarines.
used to be Marky's tagline.
personal
In this book,
attack
I
on
won
my
this one
character.
time.
Then
right now.
again, here we go. Ultramarines, the book I had to read. They are actually fighting Tau, and a veteran sergeant takes a dead Tau, cuts his head off, takes a chunk of the brain matter and eats it, and knows exactly what the Tau
So-
strategies are.
The thing,
So-
the
so
reason
here-
why I
which is
feel-
weird. It doesn't make any sense.
the reason I feel like it's kind of dumb is because like what makes you think that everything has like a brain
Right.
Mm.
or like
Well, like a drone, Tau drone's not going to do any good.
That's
So
why you-
reason
a
number
Necron?
247 as to why the Tyranids are better than the Space Marines. The Lictor eats your
Can
brain,
do this also.
goes back to the hive mind, and then the hive mind knows everything that thing knew forever, not just for a couple of hours.
But can you imagine them
Checkmate, Space
like-
Marines.
out eat each other's brains? Like a space marine and a Tyranid on the other, like both on the side of the table, like the
yeah, just
Try
making
guys,
full on eye contact,
Space
everything.
marine and Tyrannid eat each other's
Lady,
brains.
Lady
It's the
in the Tramp
weirdest.
style.
It's the weirdest like refilming of Silence of the Lambs ever.
They're just like it's like eating a bowl of Cocoa Puffs and they're just making eye contact, like unbreakable eye contact. Like yeah,
I like the warm bodies reference, by the way, Marky. Nice slip.
yeah, no worries.
Next question.
Yeah, you said you got one more, right?
I saw she had a whole script in front of her.
Oh, there.
Yeah.
I
Continue
did
through the notebook.
This is fun.
Okay.
I get to not answer and make stupid jokes. I like this.
Okay. So this was about the shadow and the warp, right?
Okay.
So does this okay, so there's intense psyker units in the Eldar, there's intense psyker units in the Tau, there's intense humans. Like, does it know okay, this is a human, this is not a human, and then we're gonna shadow in the warp accordingly, or is this just like an effect?
It's just an
So-
effect.
Yeah, it's an effect that just kind of encompasses the Tyranid synapse in general. And what's actually finding like those creatures, like sniffing out creatures from a distance, is the narval. It's
not the narval. It is the
I thought the narval not only plotted the course but also detected biosigns from a distance.
Narwhal?
those are
Narval.
called narval. Those are called
They're
Vanguard
dope.
drone ships.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Vanguard drone ships are the ones that sniff stuff out. But
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I mean, it's just yeah.
I thought the narwhals did the sniffing as well. But, yeah.
The only
Not a
difference
ball.
in the Shadow and the Warp is that Hive Fleet Leviathan Shadow and the Warp is wider than any other one. For some, or no, yeah, it's wider than any other one. Tiamat's is focused on their bioconstructs and blankets out, almost blacks out the areas they're in.
It's
And
like more
Hive Fleet-
concentrated.
Yeah, and Hive Fleet Kronos is tighter to their ships, but it's so powerful that it can actually cause demons to disassemble, and it can push warp storms back.
Yeah.
That's the one that's anti-chaos in general.
Yeah,
But
but other
also
than that,
the other Hive fleets save biomass for, because demons
Yes.
don't have any.
yeah, Leviathan
That's how you
like,
know the
sets
Hive fleets are
planets
working
aside.
together.
It's just Leviathan and Kronos, but yeah,
Oh, I thought other ones were contributing to that as well. Oh, it's
no,
just those
It's just
two.
Leviathan and Kronos, but Leviathan is like the one that's everywhere right now.
That's
so-
the biggest one, yeah.
yeah. And Hydra is munching up all of the bits that are left over.
Mhm.
Ultimate recyclers.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
That's the one that like split off of another one, right?
Hydra is the one that's the most recent one, and they eat all the splinters.
Oh, they're the ones that eat the other Tyranids.
They're the ones that eat other Tyranids. And like if Tyranids attack a planet, like so say a Hive fleet attacks a planet and gets its ass kicked, the
And it's,
Hydra
like, running
shows
a
up.
deficit.
Yeah, Hydra shows up, eats the Tyranids that just lost, and then attacks the planet. And the planet's like, fucking hell, we barely survived the first time.
What do you mean round 2?
I ain't hear no bell.
I
No, ring the
wasn't
bell. Ring the
ready,
bell.
I
Ring the
wasn't
bell.
ready. Any other questions before we jump into the actual
That was my
bio?
questions. I just really wanted to know what they tasted like. To be quite
I honestly I like the crab lobster theory.
That's what you would hope for.
Yeah, my
You gotta
guess
cook
is
it
it's
though, otherwise it's goo.
my guess is it's chicken though.
Yeah,
Like
if you've seen
that's what
Castaway-
happened, right?
Seen
No,
Castaway, you crack it open, it's just goo.
It's just goo until you
Yeah,
cook
yeah.
it.
You seen Castaway, right?
That's why you gotta cook them.
Yeah, my wife hates that movie. She's like, "Why do you watch this? It's fucking boring."
It's a great movie.
I'm like, "This is an amazing movie."
It's a fantastic movie.
Such
What's
a
wrong with you?
weird movie.
When he creates fire for the first time, that is so satisfying.
Maybe it's a guy thing because she's like, "This is just fucking dumb."
I think it's
the
a weird
conquering
movie
of
too.
nature
So-
is
Yeah,
appealing to
it's
certain
like
people.
it's the whole survival, conquering of nature
Yeah.
and oneself.
I like Wilson. Wilson's a great
Right?
guy.
Wilson's a fantastic character.
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
and I told her I was like, "Yeah, let's watch Titanic." And she's like, "I fucking love Titanic." I'm like, "Mm-hmm."
Mm-hmm.
hmm
I mean, I love Titanic too, but
Titanic's a good movie, but
dude, I
Titanic
watched
2, there was a second one.
There's like three.
two
There's
also,
like three
two-
or four
two-
now.
Two also.
How
Yeah,
are there sequels? The ship sunk.
it's Revenge of the Iceberg.
Revenge of the
Uh,
Iceberg.
So Titanic 2, the plot line is a company in the like late 90s makes a version of the Titanic called the Titanic 2.
and insurance
I am
frauds it.
not making this up at all.
My
It
Oh,
God.
you're not?
it sails the exact this is the plot of the movie. It sails the exact course and opposite
I was just
and
like,
hits an iceberg.
Yep, Revenge of the
Okay.
Iceberg.
Now, Titanic 3, they decide to rebuild the Titanic 2, and even though Titanic and Titanic 2 are not horror movies, in Titanic 3, for some fucking reason, the entire ship is infested with demons. And I'm not making it up. And they're supposed to be somehow linked into the same universe, but like Titanic 1 and Titanic 2 are weirdly different enough, and then Titanic 3 is like, are you on drugs? Like, how the
so
fuck did we
Titanic
get here?
3 is
wow. I made
It
I made
it
a bad
left
joke,
turns.
and
It
this
like
is what happened.
grabs the steering wheel and
So it's-
violently left turns into weird.
so
horror.
it becomes Iceberg Horizon.
So it becomes
Pretty
Ghost
much.
Ship. It becomes Ghost Ship.
Dude, I was just
Yeah,
thinking.
Ghost
I
Ship.
was,
Ghost Ship.
dude, I was just thinking. I was like, "What's the name of that one fucking movie with all the
Event
ghosts on
Horizon.
the ship?"
Well, yeah, that's why I called
the
it
boat.
Iceberg Horizon.
On the
but,
boat.
But they're thinking the Bermuda Triangle Ghost
Yeah.
Ship one.
Yeah.
But I was thinking Event Horizon. But yeah,
that scene in Ghost Ship where the fucking like tension cord snaps.
Yeah, dude, I was just
Holy
God.
shit!
I can just I don't even remember that scene. I
probably
know what cord snapping on ships does to people, and it's always bad.
Yeah,
I
pretty
guarantee
brutal.
you, if I watch it now, it's gonna look horrible. But when that movie came out in the theaters, that was a brutal scene.
Like, you know what a guitar string does to your finger when it snaps.
I don't.
And it now imagine that, but like, yeah,
Hundreds
bad?
of thousands of tons. Oh,
So,
dude, yeah, it can cut
a
you
guitar
pretty deeply.
a guitar string is under what? Probably like 20 pounds of pressure,
Maybe a little bit more. Maybe
Depending
50.
on the string.
and it will whip hard enough into your flesh to like chunk out your finger.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, dude, I've torn my fingers flying kites, like testing kites that aren't done yet. Like they have too much pull, so we can't.
oh,
sell
they
them to
yank
little
too
kids.
hard.
Yeah, I've had
Yeah.
them cut deep into my fingers before.
Oh, it'll like wrap and bite.
Not even wrap and bite; it'll just bite. If the cord's
Oh,
going
really?
out fast enough, yeah.
Oh
Mhm.
wow.
Yeah.
But
Just like a lictor.
Didn't know that.
yeah, it's you know, like when people try to use a steel cable to like winch out a Jeep or something, and
Yeah.
it snaps and it just like cuts
Oh,
the
yeah,
other dude's
it'll-
Jeep in half.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
shit's horrible.
So
Yeah.
you guys ever played Soul Calibur?
Yep.
Yes.
You remember Ivy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
With
so
the
it's
chain
kind of like
sword
her
whip.
sword. Yeah, she has like the whip sword.
Yeah.
Yeah, that thing. So yeah, that's what it reminds me of.
And now
I
imagine
played-
that. Yeah, that's probably about.
Probably
I
about
played Soul. I
Yeah.
played Soul Calibur for a while because they had all the like special unlock characters that you could get for certain consoles.
Oh
And
yeah,
then when
the
they, and then when they
Jedis,
stopped
different
doing
Jedis.
that, yeah, when they stopped doing that, I was like, I don't care anymore.
Yep, 100%.
That was only for one edition. I think that was 4.
The GameCube one, yeah.
Oh yeah, they did it for the generation after. It was 4 and 5.
Yeah, it was the GameCube, Xbox, and PlayStation version.
Yeah.
They did 3, 4, and 5. 5 was the Jedi, was the different, not Jedis, but the different Star Wars characters. The one
Yeah, you
before
had
it was
Yoda,
whatever.
Vader, and Anakin. I remember right?
Star Killer.
Starkiller, yeah.
Soul Calibur is a weird game. How the fuck did we get on? Okay, so synapse
'Cause we got to the
creatures. All right,
Sorry,
so
everyone. You can blame me, Ryan.
we're going to start off with synapse commanders. So these are your HQ and command creatures in the faction. Do not bring up Titanic 3 anymore. You're not allowed. I'm going to make you watch it. I'm going to make you watch it.
Never gonna watch that movie.
So the first of the synapse commanders is
Draw
the
me
Hive.
like one of your demonettes.
Wow. Is the Hive Tyrant. So these synapse creatures command the swarm of the hive mind on the hive mind's behalf, able to wield up to 4 weapons in their hands, as well as many other bioorganic weapons. These are some of the strongest, most cunning, and most independent of the Tyranids. Hive Tyrants need to be able to wage war and command in the real time, controlling the creatures that fall under the synaptic link with complete authority. So a Hive Tyrant kind of has a very, very stereotypical Tyranid look. They stand upright on 2 legs. They have the digigrade legs, so the backwards facing joints.
Mhm.
They generally have 4 arms. Usually 2 are either blades or scything talons, really, really big blades. They often have flesh hooks on their chest. But they're very, very classic Tyranid. Anybody else have any other way of describing what a Hive Tyrant looks like that I didn't touch on?
Sand crab.
Yeah, they look very crab-like.
Like a
fat
coconut
praying
crab.
mantis.
Yeah, kind of like a coconut crab.
Mhm.
I mean, if you're listening to the pod, you probably know what a Hive Tyrant looks like. I'm trying to think of an example to give everybody, like Big Bird, but with the armor.
Tyrannosaurus Rex and a lobster.
Like their chitin looks like crab segments. Then they've got like an external rib cage, essentially, and then they have carapace plates, which are like bony armor plates on their body, and those are a little bit more like
Armor.
like insect armor, essentially.
It's a praying mantis on steroids.
Yeah, interchangeable
Yeah.
arms. Yeah, think of
Yeah.
it like a fat, yoked ass praying mantis.
Yeah.
There you go.
A praying mantis, but with the proportions of a gorilla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
good one, Chuck. I like that.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, better,
Paint
way
a
better than my
picture
Big
with
Bird.
your words.
Your big word's just like, I'm like, that's adorable.
So a winged
you see
hive, a winged hive tyrant. When the hive mind deploys an airborne swarm, it will spawn this bioform and set it to lead the invasion. These are capable of wielding most of the bioweapons of the Tyranids. These synapse creatures are a terrible force on the battlefield. Wherever the shadow of their wings fall, death will soon follow. So they do not have 4 weapons. They've got 2 wings and 2 weapons. Most commonly like twin devourers, but oftentimes they'll have larger biocannons as well. It really depends on how they're being deployed. If they're going to be sent in to mop up in closer combat, they're going to have like scything talons and stuff. They're pretty nasty. It's
Yeah,
a winged version of a hive tyrant.
And shout out to Tyrant Guard. I've yet to see any on the table for years, but back in 5th edition, my buddy used to run them all the time, so you could never kill his Hive Tyrant, and it was awesome.
Yeah, hive
was like a mini
tyrant
boss
guard are
battle.
badass.
Yeah, they are like yoked little rhinos. They're dope.
Yeah, they're nasty
So-
in combat.
There is a special named hive tyrant, the Swarm Lord. So the
General
Tyranids. What's up?
His General Grievous.
It totally is General Grievous.
I never
So
thought about that.
There generally aren't a lot of named characters in the Tyranids, and that's because they're bugs and they get consumed after every battle. But
Mm-hmm.
the hive mind finds it advantageous from time to time to make the same one over and over again, and basically to pass whatever its last memory on was to its new form. So one of these is the Swarm Lord. So the Swarm Lord is considered the herald of the hive mind, and it is feared to be as old as the Tyranid race itself. So the hive mind has been spawning this thing ever since it started being the hive mind. Whenever the beast dies, its synaptic link and sense memories are absorbed back into the collective, only to be spawned anew into a new Swarm Lord. The
Do they
Swarm
have-
Lord...
Sorry, Ryan.
Like a Cylon.
Do they have synaptic backlash? I feel like that's a thing. Do you know off the top of your head?
No, you did
I think
not
that if-
anymore. is the
Okay, so it was an
answer.
old rule thing.
Yeah, it's
I
an
think
older
in some
thing.
of the books though that when the hive mind is like more actively paying attention to a creature and that creature gets killed, it does feel some like
it
Okay.
feel yeah, and
it when it's paying more attention to something that gets killed, it's gonna notice it way more than when it's thinking about stuff on another planet, and that will affect it in ways.
so carnifexes are an example of a large creature that does not have a synaptic link. If the synaptic link breaks, a carnifex will synaptic backlash will rampage at the closest thing.
So it's not so
Generally
much like a backlash. It's more
speaking,
of like a
Well, I mean, if the
loss
if the carnifex is in the middle of your army and the synaptic link breaks and it backlashes and the carnifex destroys 90% of your swarm before it's put down, that's pretty bad.
Gotcha.
But it's probably, I would imagine it's probably a little bit more akin to like a LAN line or a fiber optic or your cable line going down.
Right.
That's actually how it's described. The synaptic link is described as being like a router system or a local area network. So if you sever a link, that data is gone and that's being detected. But like, does the hive mind have a migraine for 6 days? No.
No, but like for a few moments, maybe.
It's probably irritated. It's probably like me when my fiber dropped and I was yelling at people for like an hour until it was fixed.
God damn it! I paid too much money for this bullshit.
Old
Exactly.
man yells
Too
at
much
cloud.
biomass.
So the Swarm Lord has served at the head of many hosts and different swarms, and it has been involved in annihilating countless civilizations. So with every incarnation, it becomes a bit smarter and a bit stronger. The Swarm Lord is a pretty scary fucking concept. And I know, Chuck, this is one of your favorites, right?
Yeah, it's just because from playing the game all the time, it's one of the biggest pains in the neck to have to deal with all the time.
Oh, yeah, I feel the Swarm
Yep.
Lord every
Yep.
single time I play.
Yep, same thing. So when I mentioned the Tyrant Guard in 5th edition, my buddy he had a Swarm Lord that has never been killed on the tabletop. So he would always run Tyrant Guard to make sure that it would never get killed. And I made it a point to try and kill this thing back when Vulcan had, what was it called? Like Warrior Eternal or something like that. You remember that rule, Ryan? Where essentially you can't be insta-killed or
Yep.
Essentially, if your strength was more than double your opponent and you took a wound, you would be insta-killed back in the old editions.
Mhm.
And if you had the Eternal Warrior, I feel like it's something different. But
Vigilant Warrior?
it was something like
Eternal
that.
Vigilance?
Yeah,
I
and
can't remember the name
if you
of the
had
rule.
that special rule, which I was running Salamanders back when I first started playing 40k, Vulcan had that rule. So I would always put Vulcan up against his Swarm Lord, and it was always like an amazing fight. Never killed him. Got really close, but never killed him. And my buddy likes to rub it in my face.
I never lost a Swarm Lord. I never lost my Swarm Lord until I started competing in the like tournament circuit here. And to date, I've only lost him twice, but I've lost him to the same player both times. And the dude's like 8th in the US. So I
Oh,
don't
geez.
feel super bad about losing really hard to him, but I have lost my Swarm Lord a couple of times.
I feel like nobody's brought enough demolisher cannons to solve the job properly.
Or last cannons.
He runs 2 demolishers.
I was about to say, I think
And
3 Lehman Russes would take care of it.
He runs Imperial Soup.
You'd
You'd be surprised. I
you'd
can
actually
tear
be
through 2
surprised.
Lehmans.
It is.
Oh, I don't
disgusting-
doubt that it
Yeah.
can tear through 2 Lehmans, but I feel like 3 Lehman Russes with demolisher cannons and Meltas
Yeah. You're like,
pretty much solves any problem.
They
the
have,
adventure.
they have the potential, but like I've played in the new editions too, and it's like seriously, like
It's the
why is it still alive?
it's
Yeah.
all about the journey though. The journey of the Swarm Lord getting to those demolisher cannons and meltas is what matters.
You got to
So-
use your terrain. If you don't use your terrain right, you fucked.
But yeah. Now
But-
that Lehman Russes don't have to crawl around at 6 inches to keep grinding advance, it means that it's much easier to get
Yeah.
lines of fire, though.
All right, so next up is the Malanthrope. These are Tyranid support bioforms and are often never encountered by the prey species, as they are tasked with moving among the fallen and collecting useful genetic material. This material is then used by the Norn Queens to create new and more complex bioforms. They are highly intelligent and independent psychers, which are linked directly to the hive mind. They move along the landscape by psychically hovering. Their tendrils and claws carry venom, cardiotoxins, neurotoxins, and dermonecrotics.
These are the
they also
psychic version, right? There's another one, right?
There's zoanthropes, which are the battle
Oh,
psyker ones. This is a malanthrope, which is like a non-combat support unit.
Yeah.
This is the first Forge World unit we have talked about. They are really, really nasty. They used to be really, really nasty on tabletop. They're not really that nasty anymore. But they are known, like lore-wise, they are known for delighting in torturing and killing psychic beings. Like, they love slowly torturing Farseers.
They giggle.
Are these kind of like, angry versions of, they're called engineers from that Halo ODST? You remember those things?
Yes.
Take the cars apart?
That's actually exactly what I was going to get to, is that this reminds me of there's a creature in the Halo universe that the Covenant has that's only job is to just take things apart
and understand
it, and then it's like consciousness uploads that data back to a mainframe.
That's exactly what a Malanthrope does.
Yeah.
That is exactly what a Malanthrope, but a Malanthrope does it with DNA. So that the Tyranid Hive Fleets, the hive mind is always looking for new beneficial DNA. And it will use any new beneficial DNA it can find to make better warriors. And Malanthropes are the way that they do this. So Malanthropes are the first, the last couple of things, the Hive Tyrants we've talked about all kind of look the same. A Malanthrope is basically like a big, long, serpentine, snake-ish looking thing, but the majority of its body is like hunched up and armored towards the top.
Like a cobra kind of.
Yeah, kind of a cobra looking style. But they hover. They have no legs. They use psychic energy to propel themselves.
Ooh.
They're kind of nasty on the battlefield. They don't survive very long, but they're kind of nasty on the battlefield. I used to run a Malanthrope as my second HQ.
Would you say that this, like, Lieutenant Dan ain't got no legs?
A little bit.
100%.
Lieutenant Malanthrope ain't got no legs.
100%.
He's like, Lieutenant Malanthrope is like, we got lots of different types of guardsmen.
Yummy guardsmen.
Crunchy guardsmen.
Disembodied guardsmen.
Spicy guardsmen.
Guardsmen with
guardsmen.
pointy ears. Sir, that's a Eldar.
Yeah,
Guardsmen with pointy ears.
Guardsmen with 3 arms.
Oh boy.
So next up is the Broodlord. So the Broodlord is the mightiest and most intelligent of the Gene Stealer bioforms. They are expert infiltrators and ambush predators. They often operate independently and in advance of the main Tyranid swarm, controlling the Gene Stealers in their brood with a lesser reflection of the hive mind called the brood mind. So Broodlords are kind of the pack alpha of Gene Stealers. And they can turn into a patriarch, which we covered in Gene Stealer Cult's faction.
Yeah, shout out to the Patriarch.
Is the Broodlord the one that sends out the scream to bring the Hive Fleet, or is that a Lictor?
That's the Broodlord.
Lictors and
Lictors can
Broodlords
as
can
well.
do it. Yeah,
Okay.
they both can. Broodlords are...
Licked her last night.
Again, another story for another story for Emmy to look up that deals with some Sisters of Battle. You want to talk about some dark Sisters of Battle and the preacher they were with? It was either a Lictor or a Broodlord they had locked up and torturing.
It was
Oh.
it was a Lictor.
It was
I
a
gonna say, I'm
Lictor.
pretty sure it was a Lictor. Yeah.
It was a Lictor.
And they were
Yeah,
torturing the Lictor?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's another side to that story where the Lictor's like, no, they weren't. The other side of that story was the Lictor was getting all of the information it needed, and pretending to be tortured was advantageous to it.
And then to punish themselves, the sisters died in combat because they realized that they did wrong for the Emperor.
It's
There's
so
more tied into it, but yeah.
my favorite sister, and I don't know if she's canon anymore, but my favorite sister back in 3rd edition, she got captured by the Dark Eldar, and she was forced to fight in the Dark Eldar pits. She was part of the old Dark Horse series of comics. She was forced to fight in the Dark Eldar pits, and she eventually escaped. But she didn't go back to being a Sister of Battle. I think she stayed as an Eldari Corsair.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
Yeah, she's got a really, really crazy backstory. But it's
she didn't want to repent.
Yeah, she takes off every once in a while. She would take off her helmet around rogue traders and stuff, and she's got the Repentia, or not the Repentia.
Oh, the fleur-de-lis little
the
thing.
fleur-de-lis tattooed underneath her eye, so they immediately know that she was at least a canoness or whatever rank gets those. Yeah, it's one of those interesting things. I'll try to look her up and
see if you can dig up her name.
Yeah, I've got the comic. I just have to
see if she's still canon.
I don't think she is.
Or,
I think we looked it up a while ago, but yeah.
Bummer.
I don't know if she's not canon anyway. Nothing's really nothing. That's the weird thing.
She's just not talked about
until
nothing
they prove
ever
it otherwise. Yeah.
The way that Warhammer 40k is structured is that there's so much misinformation and propaganda and lies that you can't ever trust anything, which means that there's never canon in the storyline, which is such a great way to be if they bring out female space marines and everybody loses their mind, the Games Workshop will be like, what do you mean? Our lore very specifically says that everyone lies all the time.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing too with the novels. They don't always put dates when the things happen.
Yeah.
So it could be any time after the after the heresy.
And the whole thing with the way the date works is the first segment of the date, which goes from 00 to 09, is how many astropaths away. And the way that astropaths relay information is essentially a giant game of telephone. So if the information is coming from Jericho Reach and it has a 09 in front of it, it may mean something completely different by the time it gets to Terra and is officially recorded.
Yep.
So, anyway, I had to explain that to my dad because he's reading the Eisenhorn, Ravener, and Beckwin books right now, and he's like, what is going on with the dates? And I'm like,
I remember the first time I read those books, I was like, I'm just not going to try.
When he time travels.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So I had to explain it all to him, and he's like, okay. All right, so next up are Neuranthropes. This is an advanced evolution of the Zonothrope bioform. These psychic monstrosities hover about the battlefield, leeching the life force and souls from their prey to fortify nearby synapse creatures. The Eldari believe these psychic leeches are the spawn of the Doom of Malantai, who we'll talk about coming up. Zonothropes are pretty cool. I like them a lot. They are very creepy. They're brain bugs, basically.
Yep.
They got a big ass brain and a tiny little body and then a serpentine tail.
Yeah, those things used to
I
jack
find
up my
the
tank.
prospect of a bug that thinks
They suck.
appalling.
All right, so Tyranid primes. These bioforms are the apex of the Tyranid warrior brood strain. They inspire the lesser bioforms around them, and in the absence of a hive tyrant, they take over in temporary command. So they look a lot like little hive tyrants. They've got a different head than most Tyranid warriors. 4 arms, so they can field 4 different weapons. Really, really common to see the hive tyrant with a sword, a whip, a gun, and rending claws. They like their whip action.
Very similar to the alien queen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the head looks very much like an
Yeah.
alien queen.
I say that because I put that head on my my aberrants
Mm-hmm.
and the direct
It's a cool head.
direct 3D print from the alien queen STL. It looks very similar.
Yeah, they've got that's the only way you can do Tyranid Prime out of a warrior kit is you have to use the extra carapace head, the extra long head.
That's a long head.
All right, so next up is the Trevigon. This is one of Emmy's favorites.
Yes.
So-
Is that the birther?
Yeah, so they're massive tank-sized synapse beasts. They are able to spawn skittering masses of termagant warriors from within their abdominal cavities. The termagants that are spawned this way instinctively act immediately to protect their broodmother, and their numbers just grow and grow and grow given time. So Trevigons, they're your favorite. Hit us with.
Oh man. Honestly, this is the very dorky answer why, but it's one of the best cards in the Tyranid Magic the Gathering deck. Because when it dies, it leaves, however, like large power and toughness wise the creature is, because you can make them bigger.
Right.
Deck, it's however many power your creature has at the time that it dies and leaves the battlefield, it leaves that many spawns.
Oh, that's awesome. So it leaves
Are
like a bunch of
spawns like
1/1
1/1s?
termagants.
Yeah, 1/1. Yeah, if you know anything about Magic, it's like, oh, your creature, your giant buttfuck giant creature doesn't have trample. Cool, let me just ignore that for 28 turns while I come up with something better, to kill you with. So, yeah, love that card, and they remind me of wolf spiders too. Like, I'm not afraid of spiders, except when I see a wolf spider with all the babies on her back. Like, that's when we're gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna think
Now it's
We're
a
dead.
problem.
Nope out of there.
now we're just
There
gonna
is too many of you.
it's fine. Yeah, and so like this reminds me of like when you see the female wolf spiders with the babies crawling all over her. It's disgusting, and it's the only kind of spider that I'm not like. I'm gonna take a minute, collect a bit, and then we're gonna go get the glass. Like,
There you go.
yeah. So
So they-
gets
they-
a flaming fuffer.
Yeah,
So these definitely have crab vibes, big crab vibes, but they've got like a big gestational sac that hangs underneath them, and there's literally like termagants coming out of it.
yeah. This is one of my favorites too. Again, calling back to the days of playing Tyranids against my buddy. He used to run a bunch of these, and we just house ruled it that they can never clog up, because essentially you can from
Endlessly spawn.
birthing these units. I think if you like rolled doubles or something, it would clog up.
So they can perils,
Oh.
essentially.
Essentially, yeah. And we just took that rule away because I just loved fighting against like a horde of gaunts. It
An
was-
endless horde of gaunts.
Yeah.
It's fun, yeah.
My buddy enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it, so we are like, fuck it, let's do it.
Yeah, that's the way to go.
Yeah, love Tervagons.
Yeah, they're cool.
So next up, we have Trigon Primes. This bioform leads the burrowing swarms of the hive mind, exploding from beneath the enemy's feet. Behind them rush those bioforms that followed through the yawning tunnels they created. These massive serpentine Tyranids can also generate and unleash focused bioelectrical attacks from the energy they generate while moving underground through the spines on their backs.
Tyranids roll out.
Trigon Primes are crazy.
Thank you, Kevin.
Trigons will come up again.
I don't need
Yeah,
your
I-
pity laugh, Ryan. Don't give me that.
I'm sure they'll come up from under the ground over and over again. You're right, Ryan.
Optimus Prime reference. I learned a little bit from the circuit, Kev. I should have been running Trigons instead of Molochs, and then I would have.
Yeah.
eaten
Is a
your
Trigon
guardsmen.
essentially just a better Moloch then?
Way better
It's the
Moloch?
Okay.
Melee
Yeah,
version.
Yeah, I
Wait,
don't like-
Molochs aren't melee?
Not necessarily. They're more of like a utility.
Oh, because their damage comes from the pop, not from them sticking around.
Right.
Well, they
Whereas this
they
thing sticks
also
around
bring.
and does the damage. And you said it brings like stuff with it.
They all can. They all can bring gaunts with them. Basically,
Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool.
I don't like those. First time I ever played against one was during a Ard Boys tournament. Never seen one, never heard of one before. The guy had like 3.
and then it's
Yeah.
behind. Then it's behind your lines.
I mean,
and you're
that's
like what just
That's
happened.
how Molochs. That's what
And-
happened. They were like, "Oh yeah, it comes out from under the ground, and then it goes away." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then it just like wrecked like 20 guards of it at once, and I'm like, "Ah!"
I was like, what is this thing? And you're doing what? And my psyker doesn't do. I'm totally confused right now. How do 30 Terminators fail against 3 of these things?
Oh,
Like, I'm
boy.
totally confused.
Yeah.
what's this thing?
So this is one of my favorites. This is a
That the Lictor?
named Carnifex,
Oh,
and he
One
is the
Eye.
one of the
Oh, One
last of the Synapse commanders, Old One Eye.
Oh yeah, old one eye.
So also known as the Beast of Calth, Old One Eye was first encountered during the First Tyrannic War. Although many believe it has been slain time and again, this unique and scarred bioform has been seen again and again and again. Whether that's because of a unique tweak in the pattern as it is rebirthed, or if it's just the same monster, most don't live long enough to find out. But one of the cool fan theories, one of the cool 40k conspiracy theories is that it's the same old One Eye. Way that they back that up is like old One Eye will go after Marius every fucking time. And they're like, if it was a new birthed Tyranid that just looked
wouldn't
like old
give a
One
shit.
Eye, why would it care? Like, it's this Carnifex has a problem with him.
Yeah, he's got a personal vendetta.
Yeah.
It's the only Tyranid with like a individual personal goal.
Personalized. And, yeah. And the other thing is, why would the Norn Queens birth something specifically scarred this way? Like half of its
Right.
half
Like,
of
what
old
is it-
One Eye's face
What
is
good
missing.
does it do?
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe it's one of those things that could, like, it can only make so many clones, so they start to get defective and they got to reboot it. Maybe that's
they got to
maybe
clean
that's
out
the
that
end of the
Norn
line.
Queen.
Yeah, that's the end of the line. It's like, up, time
It's
for
like
the
when
reboot.
it's like when your receipt starts printing out with the pink strip on it.
Yeah.
I think the explanation I've heard on this side of it's just rebirthed is like old One Eye has such an impact on the Imperium on like morale level that the
That they
hive mind is
printed that
intelligent
way,
enough to
essentially.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I prefer
And it just gives
that
it
it's
the
the
sense memory. Yeah, I prefer it's the
that
same
it's-
one.
And part of my like additional headcanon for that is the reason it's only got one eye is it was shot up like in the face pretty hard.
Yeah, it took a plasma blast or something to the
like
face. in the
straight to
Battle
the
of
face,
Falf.
and that probably brain damaged it a little bit.
It may
and
have even made it a synapse creature because Carnifexes are not synapse
and
creatures normally.
that's what I was thinking is whatever brain damage that did to it made it more individualistic to like pursue its personality. And I
Yeah.
almost think like it would be almost in a funny like lighthearted take on Warhammer is it's like the Hive Fleet is keeping it as a pet now. Like it doesn't listen to the Hive Fleet. Like the Hive Fleet was like, okay, everybody jump in the pool and melt back into biomass, and it's just running around looking for Calgar to go fight Calgar again, and they're like, I guess you're cute. Come on. And they just bring it like to the next battlefield, and they're like, all right, go have fun.
Go look
I
for
like that.
Calgar.
I like that
Go look
quite
for
a bit.
Calgar.
There's a bunch of blue space marines here. No, they're not. They're red. Yeah, red is the new blue. Oh,
You're colorblind. You can't tell the difference. Go get them.
oh, I'm colorblind. It just forgets it can see color. All right.
Whoa.
So next up is
Fine.
the
That's a
Doom
cool paint job.
of Malantai. So this is a specifically adapted zonothrope, given the ability to feed on life force and souls of its victims. It played a specific role in the destruction of the entire population of Craftworld Malantai, most likely starting off as just a normal zonothrope, but the Eldari kind of ignored it because they didn't see it as a threat, which allowed it to feed and become ridiculously overpowerful. It was feeding on the Infinity Circuit directly towards the end.
Oh, this is the same thing. Okay, cool. Yeah.
And the Doom of Malantai does not exist anymore. Like once it was reconsumed by the hive mind, it's not been made again. However, it was a zonothrope that was adapted, and now the neurothrope is based on it, essentially.
Yeah, fuck that model in the game.
I
Dude,
just
it's a
really
cool
like the
looking model,
fact that
man.
it
Well,
literally was eating
it's-
like the souls of
It's
Eldari.
not. It's not in 9th edition, is it?
No, Doom is no
Yeah.
longer that. So the
Yeah.
Doom of Malantai was a creature that
Yeah.
it's a bioform that existed. It was a zonothrope that got super, super powerful, and then when it was reabsorbed, it became the pattern for the neurothropes. So the neurothropes are the Doom of Malantai, but they're just like
don't-
lesser copies, basically.
Yeah, because
Was there ever a model for it?
Yep.
Is that it right there?
No, this is a conversion.
Okay.
This is a Maliceptor and a Zoan and a Neurothrope hit batch together.
yeah, because it used to come down in like the drop pod thing, right?
Yeah.
Or come on its own. Yeah. When did it come out? 6th edition.
I think it was
I think-
fifth.
I think they stopped. They discontinued it or whatever, redacted
Come
it,
eighth.
and so
It's-
7th edition was the last.
So
edition
those
was
of
out.
you didn't
I think
play
it's
back in
Legends now.
6th and 7th edition. That thing was ridiculous
Yeah.
because you have your Marines. Your Marines are doing their thing. That thing drops in anywhere. Had no rules. It would just come in. It'd always hit, even when you had scatter dice. And it would go, here's my pie plate template. Oh, look, I covered 10 Marines. I kill 9 or 10 of them.
Yeah, and then
Wow.
it would take those wounds and it could reallocate them
Yep.
to synapse creatures, and that's what Neuranthropes can do now. They just don't do it
as
as
effectively.
the same way. Yeah.
And I'm glad it's not around now, because could you imagine that thing with how the rules are now? It'd be mortal wounds.
Oh yeah,
It'd
it'd
be
be
like,
dumb.
oh, take 6d6, you cause that many mortal wounds.
The only reason it's not on the
Times
website right
2.
now and it's not in the books right now is because they're redoing the figure and we're going to get it.
Yeah, my buddy used to run that all the time, and I used to
Hated that
I
thing.
used to think that he felt bad about it, but I don't think he actually did.
No. Yeah, that's that thing. Yeah, screw that model.
Ooh.
Not
That
the
one's
model,
fun.
The thing.
By the way, we are on the elites now. Sorry. So Toxicryn, so Doom and Malantai and Toxicryn are both elites. So Toxicryns are massive bioforms that are a confusion of lashing tendrils and toxic whips, spewing semi-sentient clouds of spores which can penetrate even sealed environmental armor in vehicles, turning the victim's body into an explosion of dissolving skin and organs.
I feel like I've seen this in a
is
movie
what
somewhere.
They did the 40k candle for.
Yeah, yes. Does it
Yes.
smell like exploding bodies and ruptured organs?
No, I'm
It's
actually
like-
very disappointed with the Warhammer candles because they all just smell like basic normal stuff.
They smell like essential oils. Like
Yeah.
this one smells like grapefruit essential oil, and like there's
I was-
no more depth to the fragrance.
I was kind of curious. I was like, oh, Astra Militarum. This one probably smells like gunpowder or something, right? Nah, it smells like
Shame.
citrus. It's like it's like it might as well just be vanilla,
Look
It
at
should be-
Marky's
it should be
face
like
of disappointment.
saddlewood.
right?
That smells like citrus and not
Like you'd think at least like the corn
Ruptured
one might
organs.
smell like.
Like you
Iron?
think it smelled like carbon or something. Well, I guess not
Yeah.
carbon because it's las rifles.
I don't know if
think-
I
you
don't
think
know
it
if
smelled
copper and iron
iron-
scented candles would sell well is the
Like,
problem. I don't think people want to
it's
smell
not- it's
the
fresh blood.
novelty, though.
But-
Yeah, but it's
Have
not.
a
It's
musk
not
regard.
about the. It's not about them smelling good. It's about them matching what they're labeled as.
Yeah, the novelty
Well,
of
the
You
it.
more-
can't name it Astra Militarum scent and then have it be something basic like citrus.
It should be
It should-
it,
it
that.
should-
That honestly should be like saddlewood. Or
No,
they
it should be
they
like
should have
it should be
picked
like
a weird
mud
rugged-
and musk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
musk.
it could be
Wet mud.
It could be it could be wet mud and I mean sandalwood
Decaying
would go
palm
together
trees.
with that. Yeah, you could have like the smell of moss and some other stuff.
What do
I mean-
las guns smell like when you fire them?
Ozone.
I was gonna say it smell,
Ozone.
yeah. it should
So
smell-
it'd
it
be
should
like
smell like
what it,
hot.
after somebody does a whole bunch of arc welding, it would be like that
Yeah.
smell.
I don't
It
I
should
don't know,
smell like
Marky. Do you have a flashlight in the garage? Just turn a flashlight on. What's it smell like?
Mhm.
sadness.
I'm sorry. Low blow. All right, so next up we have Tyrant Guard. Tyrant Guard are a specialized species of Tyranids spawned in small broods for the sole purpose of defending the Hive Tyrant. They are large, tough, and it is nearly impossible to surpass their defenses. Tyrant Guard are completely blind and are controlled by the synapse creature that they are set to protect. On occasion, Carnifexes can also benefit from Tyrant Guard's protection. The Tyrant Guard are believed by some of the Adeptus Mechanicus Magi to contain the DNA of defeated Space Marine chapters. However, the Imperium consider this high blasphemy and denies that it's even possible.
Hmm.
I was gonna say that's directly in the Tyranid Codex of what what unit was,
Mm-hmm.
born essentially because of whatever
Yeah.
army
Space
or
Marines.
species they were facing. So like
Yeah, because the
just like this-
Malanthrope went and was like, "Hey, this Ultramarine looks pretty tasty. Let's pull it apart and see how it ticks."
Yeah, and then they
Mhm.
came out with Tyrant Guard, and like I think what was the Xanthropes were meant for
Eldar.
Eldar, and there's a few other ones. My buddy showed them to me, and I totally forgot.
The Malanthrope is like going through the Space Marine DNA, and he's like, interesting. Blind devotion will make Tyrant Guard blind. Yeah.
Yes, that's the genetic feature from this creature we would like to keep.
Oh, so
Norn
it's
Queen,
saying,
make me 10 of these.
so alien
Stat.
DNA. He has Gene Stealer as human,
Gene
Biovores
Stealer
and
are
Spore
human.
Mines are orcs.
Mhm.
Xanthrobes are Eldar. Tyrant Guard are Astartes.
Yeah, they all link to something.
Let's see. I don't see any other
The
alien
Tau,
ones, but-
Tau, as usual, too weak to be useful.
Rippers.
No, Rippers are good at melee.
The big thing that came out of fighting the Tau was all the toxins.
Shooty.
that
Yeah,
are
all the shooty
specifically-
ones.
All the toxins that are specifically like worded that say it bypasses environmental suits. All of
Oh,
that
yeah.
came from the Tau. Because as
Didn't the Tau use a bioweapon on a Hive fleet, and then the Hive fleet immediately created
Hive
their
fleet-
own one and fired it back at the Tau? Or like, how you fucking like it?
Yeah, we talked
Hive
about
Fleet-
that one in the last
Hive
episode.
Fleet
yeah.
Gorgon. Yeah, Hive Fleet
Yeah.
Gorgon basically got into a weird like biological like Cold
Arms
War
race, yeah.
with the Tau.
They kept firing them at each other, and then eventually they're like, this is dumb and not getting anywhere. Let's move on.
Oh wow.
So next up we have
Yes.
lictors.
This was one of my favorites.
So these are large, deadly organisms that are bred for their stealthy qualities. They're chameleonic in nature, allowing it to blend in with its surroundings to hunt and later kill its prey. Lictors are usually only seen when the Tyranids are springing a deadly ambush onto an unsuspecting army, unleashing a bioengineering killing machine within its own ranks. They range ahead of the swarms, performing raids and gathering information by devouring their victims' brains. Lictors possess stealth and cunning to a point where they can best the famous Catachan fighters in jungle combat. Many Imperial Guard commanders have lost their troops into the shadows as they blink or look away for a second, and in that terrifying moment, an undetectable lictor is hard at work.
Very much like the Predator in the
Yes.
Predator
Oh, yeah.
movie series.
I actually really, really like lictors. There's another thing that
So
you
awesome.
didn't really
They
talk about.
Suck on tabletop.
Well, you're saying they take DNA and brain stuff from people they capture. They also are one of the first creatures to start spreading the Tyranid infection to a planet into the indigenous population of
Yeah,
animals.
they'll be dropped ahead with gene stealers to do
So,
a lot
like,
of
Mhm.
It'll
forward.
capture a coyote and essentially gene stealer that coyote and send it off to go back to its coyote brethren and do that gene
So-
stealer stuff.
So they can go toe to toe with the Catachan, but can they go toe to toe with an orc wearing purple?
Probably not.
That's my question.
Unless the lictor is from Hive Fleet Leviathan, and then the lictor is purple, so the
purple.
orc can't see it either.
Mhm.
Ah,
Is that
But,
how that works?
The other thing I really like about them
Either.
is they're super smart and they'll like fuck with people
Yeah,
Mhm.
they'll use manipulation to get
and
to
terror and
yeah.
all kinds of stuff. Baltimore has a really great section on lictors specifically.
Yeah, he had a really good short story
Yeah.
about it. There was also this really dope art, or it might have been what do you call it?
conversion.
Not a conversion. When they make like not a monument, but essentially
Diorama.
A diorama. Thank you. Of like a guardsman, like terrified with a terrified look on his face, and it has like a brick wall or something that he's standing next to, and on top of the brick wall is like a
There's a
very
lictor.
dark lictor, like figure looking down on him. It's gnarly.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. So next up is the Death Leaper. This is a special variant and advance on the Lictor bioform. Death Leapers were designed as terror weapons and are unleashed as vanguard organisms to spread fear. They possess an instinctive understanding of fear and the use of stealth, infiltration, and assassination. They use all of these things to spread paranoia and dread within a population before a hive fleet even arrives.
Yeah.
Ooh.
The
Yeah, I think
Death
that
Leapers
this
are pretty
is-
crazy.
I think this is more specifically the one that Baltimore was referencing in his short
There-
story about
yeah.
them.
There's
yeah,
a
it's so good.
There's a story of a Death Leaper basically going through the entire aristocracy of a planet, eating brain after brain after brain.
Nice.
Basically,
Yeah.
just like he eats somebody's assistant, and then he finds out that the assistant wasn't the top of the chain, so he eats the guy who the guy was the assistant to, and he finds out that he's not the top, so he eats the next person, and he eats the next person, just
Dining his
looking
way to
for
the top
more
of
and
a
more
pyramid.
information. Yeah, and he
Nice.
eventually like gets to the planetary governor. I can't remember. It may even be like homebrew lore that somebody wrote, but I can't remember what the story was. But it
It might
was a
be the
cool
same story.
because that's similar to the one Baltimore has. But the most impactful one is the fact that it just like sits there in the middle of the night watching him.
Yeah. And he knows it's there.
And he knows it's there, and that if he were to reach for his gun and try to shoot it, it would kill him.
It would punish him.
And it wouldn't necessarily kill him. It would just like slap him around the room a few times, and then go kill his bodyguard.
Yep.
It would like slap him back into the corner, go into the hallway, and murder somebody, and then disappear, and then come back the next day and just stare at him.
Yeah, I think finally the guy ended up killing himself.
Yeah, the guy ended up killing himself because no matter what he did,
he couldn't get rid of it.
He couldn't get rid of it,
Ugh.
and it wouldn't kill him. It would just kill everybody around him.
Yeah.
And yeah,
because that's all they're
yeah,
that's all they're doing. They're trying to like they're terror. It's a terror tactic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm starting to think my friend was a real big dick back in 5th edition.
You're like, man, this dude's a sociopath.
Because he would run the Death Leaper, the Doom of Malantai, the Swarm Lord.
Oh,
he didn't really run.
You know what he is? He's a Forge Worlder.
So
he
Death Leaper.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say he's just one of those people that buys all the Forge World stuff because it's fucking broken.
Death Leapers and the Lictors were really, really good until 8th. They were really good until 8th, and I don't. It's probably I probably shouldn't say that. They're probably have a utilization that hasn't been discovered on tabletop yet, but they used to be
current
really
meta.
Good.
Yeah.
So Malin Scepters are next. These powerful Tyranid Psyker analogs wield classic synaptic powers. Ethereal psychic lashes whip about them, able to detonate a victim's skull with the merest touch, while encephalitic orbs set into their carapace act to focus the smothering effects of the shadow in the warp. So these are like walking shadow in the warp repeaters.
Giant brain bugs.
They're another crab-like.
Brain bug?
Crab-like, for sure.
Crab dog.
It's like the big nutsack from Starship Troopers.
Yes, it's got the brain nut sacks going on its carapace head,
and it blows up your head.
Yep.
With its long penetrating shaft,
lashing.
That's that one right there.
Ovipositor. That's the word I was looking for.
Oh, what's
I like how the giant penis cannon on its back has a bayonet.
These are pyrovores.
Because even the Tyranids are like, fixed bayonets.
Yes. Yeah, right. So pyrovores are bioforms that exist to pre-digest biomass with acids that drip from their jaws that are corrosive enough to melt adamantine. They carry a flame-spewing dorsal organism on their carapace covered back, which can engulf entire squads and gouts of chemical fire. Killing them is hazardous as they are volatile and they explode a lot.
Yeah, I bet.
I mean,
did they have to make it veiny though? Like, was that necessary?
I know,
couldn't
just
100%.
Yeah, like they could have just covered it in carapace.
And then my next question: have any of you seen the converted ones?
I don't know if I want to, because honestly, that one's pretty disturbing.
Where the cannon's underneath.
Oh, I'm sure the cannon's underneath.
The cannon's underneath.
Oh, that's clever.
Like it's like, come on.
That's clever.
We already know what it looks like.
I like that.
Yeah.
Hey, man, you call it how it is.
There's also a guy that took, well, I shouldn't say guy because I'm not sure. There's a converter online who took a bunch of Tyranid warriors and converted them to be pyrovores, and instead of having it come out of their back or their stomach, it's one of their arms is converted into the cannon, and they look. I showed you one, Marky, when I was there.
Yeah.
That they look fucking cool.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I like that idea.
Pyrovores are interesting. Pyrovores, exocrines, and the ones that launch the spore mines, which my brain is biovores, are all interesting looking. They all got cannons built into their back, and they all kind of look phallic-y.
I mean, do you think like you were talking about this earlier, Ryan, and one of the other, I think in one of the Patreons, where what you do for a living, something got to a certain state, and then you and another guy went, "Oh crap, we know what this is," and
yeah.
Do you think that happened with this?
Well, I think when you design toys for adults to collect and play, you don't think that much about that stuff. When you design things for like 8 or 9-year-old kids, like I do at my
Oh,
job,
sure.
there's a level where you have to go,
You-
does this look like a penis or a vagina? Maybe
So-
we shouldn't make it.
So, I mean, I think I honestly think it's one of two things. I think the sculptor, whoever sculpted it, was like, I'm gonna see if I can get away with this.
It's like
Right.
it's like the guys who put dicks in everything Disney.
Yeah.
Literally the conversation we had.
Obviously,
had that-
that's
had
so
that
bad.
conversation.
So actually, I was just talking to
Just in
somebody who
reverse.
used to work at Disneyland. He worked there for a good while, and apparently he didn't even know it either. But and I guess we were able to find one of the low key adult references at Disneyland that still exists, but it definitely has a butt plug painted on a wall right next to the
Oh.
word ass.
Wow,
That was on purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
not at all.
So at I don't know,
dare
Emmy,
you.
if you've been to Disneyland,
Just Disney
Nope.
World.
Disney World. Okay. The rest of us have Disneyland.
Yep.
Multiple times.
So the ones that have, Ryan, you're yes, and Chuck, you're yes. So you know Trader Sam's
Yeah.
right across from like Indiana Jones, that whole
Yeah,
little
yeah.
bazaar row.
oh yeah,
So one of those vendors is called Magic Carpet, brass, and then instead of and or a symbol for and,
Ah.
it's literally like a painted butt plug, silk. So it's supposed to say Magic Carpet, brass, and silk. But if you
Mhm.
cover up the first letter, it's just ass and
Ass
silk
and silk.
with
There
the
you go.
with the butt plug.
Great combination.
Represent-
Speaking of silky asses, next up we have the horror spec.
Yeah, the walking blue waffle.
That was his paint job.
the walking blue waffle. Oh
Wow.
God. Eh.
I'm just saying.
Oh,
That's
that's
what it looks like. I'm just saying.
All right.
Now
so
that's how I have to paint the
infinitely-
Tyranid army when I get it.
There you
Just
go.
have nothing but those.
There you go, Chuck.
infinitely
Blue waffles
hungry.
for everyone.
Perfect
Refocusing. So these infinitely hungry bioforms can consume entire squads of prey organisms at once. Nothing can escape its yawning gullet or lashing tongue. Anything swallowed down is gradually dissolved into a stew of raw biomass. So these are
Yeah, I bet.
on the battlefield. I can mute you.
No, I just know exactly what's going through Chuck's brain right now. It's going through mine as well.
Paint schemes.
So these
It's
are the
not.
ones. So these are the ones that, like, after the battle is done, they'll go
Sorry,
around
Emmy.
eating a bunch of shit, and then they'll go and they'll vomit it into the digestive pools.
Blit.
Right.
Mm.
The Tyranussi,
But yeah, they
I would say.
Thank you, Emmy. You needed that.
the Tyranid are totally the body horror creatures. There's so much
Hey,
shit in
and
them
with
that's
this one,
just
too-
literally weird, uncomfortable body horror monsters.
With this one too, you could even go back to your blue gender reference
Yeah.
for the anime because it's literally oh my god that's fucking hilarious.
So
And
So-
the little thing that you're supposed to shoot's hanging out right in front.
yeah, the uvula.
The uvula, whatever you were calling it last
That's
time.
a butt plug, right?
That's a butt plug.
That is the.
Oh boy, what do we have here?
All right, so next up are venom thropes. These drift forward amidst miasmic clouds of spores spewed from their own bodies, causing those around them to drown in their frothing fluids as their lungs dissolve first and then the rest of their organs do from the inside out. They are also equipped with poisonous tendrils to ensnare and entrap prey. So they can, if you try to fall back from these guys, they can entrap you and drag you back.
They got the stanky leg.
Do
There-
stanky leg.
They're another serpentine, kind of floaty looking unit.
With
Yeah.
barbed whips. It's great.
It looks
Yeah.
like if Metapod was also an octopus.
Oh yeah, they're very octopusy looking.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You heard me.
Okay.
They look like octopus.
Octopi.
Octopi.
Octopi, octopedus, and octopussies are all technically correct. Because English is 3 dialects in a trench coat pretending to be a language.
Wasn't that Austin Powers villain?
Octopussy
No,
is
James
a
Bond.
Bond villain.
Oh.
And not
right.
really villain, it's the femme fatale.
Yes.
She was a villain in the beginning of it, but
So it's like a little
join sides.
Catwoman kind of scenario.
I feel like that happens in most of the Bond movies. There's a girl that's like supposed to be a bad guy, and then he bangs her, and she's like, I don't want to be bad anymore.
Wasn't that also an Undercover Brother? The what is it? The
White
Devil.
The White Devil.
It was like She White Devil or something like that.
Yep.
She was
Now
great.
I'm thinking of Ace. Now I'm thinking of Ace Ventura: Pet Detective 2. The Quincy Ocha.
Oh yeah, White Devil.
So next up are the Zonothropes. These bioforms are psychic artillery whose highly evolved brains swell out of proportion to their bodies. Through their use of psychic powers, they can perform a number of roles on a battlefield. Some evidence points to later incarnations of Zonothropes being improved by the hive mind's assimilation of Eldari DNA following Hive Fleet Kraken's Tyranid assault on the craft world Iodin.
Ooh.
Yeah, these are the ones that are they consumed some
Shoot
Eldari
lightning.
DNA and made these guys. Yeah, they can focus warp beams, but they're big brain, tiny serpentine cobra-like body that kind of drifts underneath them. They float.
Yeah.
In
Floating las cannons, essentially.
in Dawn of War 2, actually, they used their psychic power to kind of give themselves like a shield. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, they do that in 40k also.
Zonothropes
They
and
have like a,
Zonothropes and
Indolent
Neuronthropes have a psychic shield around.
Yeah.
The way that they
Nice.
float is that there's so much warp energy around them that it's like holds them up essentially, and that also acts as a shield.
They used to
Okay.
they used to have this weird rule where like they'd have a 3-up invulnerable save or something like that.
weird. Against
Up
shooting
up
or
until
something.
like a certain point, and then it would drop down and they become super squishy.
Oh.
It was really weird. I can't remember. the
It
rule
makes sense.
exactly.
Yeah.
They're
They used to be
tanky
really-
until you
Talking
break
about-
the shield, and then they're
They were really
balloons.
well. They were really powerful until like turn 3 or something.
Yeah, it was something
You had to
like
use
that.
some
Oh, it
early
was like a
game.
turn thing.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly.
Ah,
But yeah, they were gnarly to deal with for sure.
that's cool.
All right, next up is everybody's favorite, or at least my favorite, Gene Stealers. These ferocious humanoid creatures, supposedly derived from human DNA, have been used as vanguards to the Tyranid invasion of the Imperium. They infiltrate human society, creating Gene Stealer cults, but are also used as shock troops on the battlefield, where their sharp claws and instinctive close combat skills allow them to shred heavily armored opponents. So if you want to know more about Gene Stealer cults, we have a 3-parter on the Gene Stealer cult faction. I suggest you go
Only
listen
3
to it.
parts?
So-
Felt like 9.
So there's not.
Says the guy who got 8.
So there's not a.
Felt like 30.
There's not a bioform for Tau.
No.
There's nothing. The thing that's based on Tau is Hive Fleet Gorgon's like
The toxic
crazy
stuff.
bio weapons.
But not a form.
What are they going to
No.
do? Get weaker in close combat?
They
Where are gonna
never-
take from?
They never
Yeah.
they never consumed a Tau and were like,
This
we
is
need
useful.
something they have.
Ah, man, I love it.
What probably happened? The real answer to your question is yes.
it got
they
smarter.
probably did take apart Tau and they got smarter.
Yeah. They probably ate. Well, because that's the thing is if they're fighting Tau, they're fighting Firecast,
Oh.
which Firecast are useful because they follow orders.
Yep.
So the synapse got stronger, and then if they managed to get a hold of an
Like-
ethereal, the synapse would probably get stronger. If they
got
managed to get a hold of an Earthcast,
Earthcast.
then they would probably get smarter.
Yeah.
Aircast probably wouldn't do them any good because they already have flying creatures.
Right. Exactly.
So
They probably just got smarter. They probably consumed Tau. What probably happened was they probably overwhelmed Tau the way that they overwhelmed things. They probably tore open a crisis suit and ate the dude inside the crisis suit and were like, oh, this is how their air filtration systems work. Now we know how to beat it.
Mhm.
And then they made a toxin that would go into the suit.
and the that
Wow.
engineer one, the big squid
Sorry.
puppet master thing probably took the
Sorry.
suit apart.
Sorry,
Yep.
Tau fans, you don't get a model.
Mhm.
Yeah, fuck
well,
you, Tom.
in a way though, the Tau did come up with
Nah.
their own suit to fight the Tyranids. That's
Yeah.
the thing though is you
Well,
it
and
went the other
there's
way
no
there.
there's no squat Tyranid bioform. There's no
Well, that's all new.
Yeah.
Botan.
No,
So-
it's the same. They're the
So-
same
so are-
Botan.
Oh,
So
they are.
So I read through the whole codex. I should have brought the codex so you could see it, but they are the same squats as the previous squats. However, that was not any significant part of the squat empire. That was a colony.
We're gonna have a squad episode here coming up real soon.
Yeah.
I wasn't- yeah,
So
I
long story short, that was a colony, and part of the way the squats as a culture, the Votan, because they have all this super cool shit that other people don't have anymore, and they know everybody would be super interested in it, so they just don't tell everybody else that it exists.
Yeah.
So
And
the,
then,
the
like-
way that the way that they've been secret is nobody knew, and everybody who would interact with one, like a rogue trader, would meet a Votan.
Like sworn to secrecy kind of thing.
Well, and that Votan literally wouldn't tell them anything.
Tell them shit.
So
Like nobody knew that they had a home.
So
they all
what-
pretended that they're nomads.
so
Yeah.
so I'm
So
getting
everybody
at
just
though,
thinks
like
they're scattered
how we're
nomads.
seeing different Tyranid forms for different
Right.
races. They basically looked at Tau squats and went, not a useful bioform.
Or the thing
Votan
that's
are humans.
or the thing that's useful is not.
Well, they're
Yeah.
mutants.
They're genetically
Well, and-
modified
and
humans, but
So
they're
so
humans.
so technically, gene stealers didn't find humans advantageous either. Like they didn't find anything in the human DNA that was worth like using to make their bodies better weapons. They just use humans because it's easier to infiltrate humans if you look human-like. One and two.
use human
that's the
doors
largest-
and hallways.
Yeah, that's the largest
that's-
prey species that you can eat. So they're the easiest
that's-
target.
That's my question I'm asking. Like they don't do that when they go into the Tau Empire.
They just use
Like
gene
the
stealers. So gene stealers can infect
Just use a
anything.
gene steal.
Gene stealers, yeah, can do
Okay.
everything.
So
and
gene
then a
gene
gene
stealers,
stealed Tau
yeah, would just
would
look
be
like
a weird hybrid Tau
So-
thing.
so-
it wouldn't
so
look like
basically
a
it's
neophyte
the-
human.
A gene stealer is
kind of probably would look pretty close
It's
to a
the
neophyte
xenomorph.
human.
Face hugger, you know.
yeah, but I mean it's basically
So
the
essentially,
multi-purpose tool
It's a placeholder.
bioform.
Yeah.
so essentially, they didn't need a bioform to battle against the Tau. They used
Their
the
normal
the
stuff.
information against them and developed better weaponry or
And
weaponry
tactics.
and tactics to fight.
Well,
them.
and
Yeah,
And
it's
Tau-
not always an evolutionary process of building
Tau-
a better bug. It's a thought process.
So what I
And
so
Tau-
what I'm
Tau
getting,
aren't
what I'm
a
getting
large-
at is
Tau aren't
No.
a large enough empire for the Tyranids to
Mhm.
use subterfuge against. The Tau also have a lot of lore problems. The Tau need to be fixed. GW needs to sit
So-
down and fix the Tau because the Tau do not make sense as a functioning empire.
so
and
then
I
is
love
there
the
a bio
Tau. They're one of my
a
favorite armies, but-
bioform for the orcs, or is it just
Yes.
bigger Tyranids?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. They
the
said
bioform
the
was-
spore ones.
yeah,
yeah,
Hive Guard.
They
spores.
they've
Hive
they
Guard.
pulled some of the spore techniques out of the orcs. For
Okay.
this. Yeah.
So again, sorry Tau people, you don't get a cool xenomorph.
And as we talked about last episode, when you put Tyranids and orcs
They
into
just get
a
bigger.
locked system, you get much worse Tyranids and much worse orcs.
Everything gets
Thanks.
bad for everybody else.
Thanks, Inquisitor Cryptman.
Hey, he was more or less right for a while.
It was measurably right. Measurably may have been a couple of minutes, but measurably right.
Correct. He
So-
wasn't wrong.
We are on to Tyranid troop choices. So the first one is the Tyranid warrior. This is one of the hive mind's most adaptable bioforms. Strong, swift, and independently intelligent, Tyranid warriors are the backbone of most invasion swarms. Synaptic link allows them a wider range of martial abilities and allows them to act as repeaters to extend the hive mind's influence. So Tyranid warriors, again, 6 limbs, stand on their hind legs with a tail, digigrade legs, forearms. Yeah, mini hive tyrants.
They're cute.
They're very fun. I field a lot of them. All right, so next up we have termagants. These scuttling predators attack in massive swarms. Originally spawned to roam the arterial halls of hive ships and hunt down the intruders, they are now deployed on many battlefields of the Tyranid. They are armed with either flesh borers, devourers, or spine fists. So this is a very, very stereotypical, probably more gene stealer-ish looking Tyranid. They've got 6 limbs. They run on 4. It can attack with They run on all 6, can attack with 4. They usually have 1 gun. I guess they only run on 4s, but can attack with, I don't know.
Yeah.
And like we mentioned last time, all the weapons are essentially symbiotic life forms. So Hormagonts are next. These are rampaging hunter-slayer organisms. Hormagonts are unleashed in their billions to act as shock troops. This is the singular answer to many issues the hive mind encounters on more defended worlds, as it can simply choose to choke the enemy in chitinous bodies. Hormagonts are equipped with specialized mini synthing talons. All right, so next up are gargoyles. These are often the first bioform launched during an invasion swarm. These are basically flying variants of termagants equipped with flesh borers. These flying creatures can squeeze into gaps that seem much too small from them, meaning that they can burst forth through gun slits, and vent pipes to get inside well-built defenses, which I thought was crazy. Like they can apparently octopus themselves in. They look like flying versions of termagants or hormagants.
Oh, I like this.
So yeah, we are on to fast attack. This is a Dimacharion. So these bioforms appear to have evolved for a singular purpose: slaughtering those identified among the prey as leaders amidst the battle. They sow terror and disarray among the ranks of all who resist. Their blade arms are studded with sickle-like claws that can slice a fully armored space marine in twain. When stalking its prey, the Dimacharion dispenses with slow, stealthy approach that might be used by the lictor, and instead relies on sheer brutality and animalistic rage, leaving a gore-soaked trail of carnage behind it.
So
Perhaps
these are like the middle management.
Yes.
Okay, I love
Yeah. Sounds just like middle management.
Dimacharion from HR
Yes.
is here to talk to you.
Yeah.
Shit.
They're,
Yes.
That's probably why I've never seen one.
yeah, they're
From
pretty.
HR, there she is.
That thing's
They were pretty big in Crusher.
Perhaps even more fearsome than the array of sickle talons,
people are
razor-sharp teeth, and tail spikes is the spine-ridged maw hidden within the Dimacharion's thorax. Any foe unfortunate enough to be caught in the beast's grasps will be held in place while the thorax hinges open and the fanged maw impales them. While the trap-like jaws on the Dimacharion's ribcage hold the victim in place, the spines inject with a potent bioacid which reduces their internal organs to a slurry of nutrients that are then absorbed by the Tyranid to booster its own physiology, allowing it to ignore all but the most horrific of injuries. It's just, their stomach can eat people, like, while they're fighting. What the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
If you want me to start doing the pokey rap here, just kind of reading them for you, I can do that.
Yeah, you want to read a couple?
Okay, perfect. So, Raveners. Serpentine bioforms that are capable of terrifying speed. They are also capable of tunneling extremely swiftly, even through the hardest of bedrock, and often assault their prey from below. They are used as shock troops by the hive mind.
Serpentine, again, great infiltrator units. I like these things a lot. I think it's interesting that they have rending claws in the middle instead of on the top or the bottom, like a lot of different forms do, where they've got the
Yeah,
rending claws only
definitely.
on one end.
Well, the next one is one of my personal favorite Tyranids, the Red Terror, a specifically adapted evolution of the Ravener brood used by Hive Fleet Kraken. It escaped onto a refugee ship, a covert ore hauler, and reduced all the crew and passengers to bloody ribbons. When the ship arrived at Adri's Hope, it was a charnel house of blood and ruin, but was completely empty. 3 weeks later, Adri's Hope was left a blood-drenched ruin itself. The Red Terror may have been the Hive Fleet's earlier attempts to create a Trigon or Moloch. Did you know that the Red Terror is the Canadian Tyranid?
No.
Games Workshop Canada did a contest with its employees to come up with a Canadian unit, and this is what they came up with.
That unit represents Canada.
The lore is fucking freaky. So it rampages on this planet. All of these people try to escape the planet, and they get onto this ore boat, and they leave. Like literally, this isn't a transport ship. The ship arrives, and everything on the ship is dead. And then it gets out, and it kills everything on that planet. This is what the Canadians came up with?
Yes, this is like, you know, when sorry isn't enough.
When sorry isn't enough.
Yes. When the Canadians get involved, you know it's bad.
How big of a planet was it?
Audrey's Hope was like backwater, but
Anything
still,
with that
like,
kind of a name is a backwater.
even if you're talking about under 1 million people, for under 1 million people to be killed by one thing in 3 weeks is insane.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
horrific.
Assuming there was only one.
Like living carpet of hungry teeth-filled mouths, rippers squirm across the ground wherever the swarm advances. They are little more than eating machines swarming over the dead, wounder and weak alike. They can even drag down trained warriors in large enough numbers.
So I chose these as one of my favorites because the little guys never get enough recognition,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
So I chose swarms because they're, you know, for one, they're adorable.
They are.
Yeah, they are.
It'd be dope to have a Ripper as a pet. Just a little monster. Just be great, right?
You need to give it a lot of chew toys, though.
Not,
Yeah,
not,
you know, whatever
not
it
only that,
needs,
but
man.
we have our Stoner Ripper head cannon.
Yep.
Nope.
All three of them chilling. Yep.
Chilling
They're
in a
all
hot
facing
tub.
each other, and they got a fucking blunt in their mouth or something. It'd be great.
Yeah.
Blunt rotation. Cute. All right.
It'd be great
ready?
if we had some humans to eat on.
dude, you gotta go back and listen. We have a whole thing
Whole thing on.
about how
whole
guardsmen
bit.
are burritos.
Yeah.
All right. Parasite of Mortrex. Swooping on leathery wings, this bioform uses its barbed ovipositor to drive ripper gestation pods deep into their victims' bodies. These rippers swiftly grow and eat their way out. This was the doom that befell the defenders of Mortrex, the world this bioform was first encountered on.
that this is a newer one.
Yeah, I thought this one was new.
And holy crap, the lore is like, wait, what?
It impregnates you with rippers, who then
It-
chest burst her out.
Yep.
AVP Requiem impregnates you.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen that one.
They make a pred alien, and the pred alien is capable of like depositing multiple aliens
Eggs.
into your stomach, essentially.
Uh,
Yeah.
but not by hugging your face.
No, it shoots its ovipositor into your mouth and deposits them down your throat.
Oh, like it just shoots it down your
Yep.
throat.
You're just like,
Yep.
thank you, sir. May I have another?
I feel like this one.
Well,
What?
I don't know if you asked for another.
The pred alien breaks into a maternity ward towards the end. Like they break into a hospital. The last
Oh dear.
third of the movie takes place in a hospital, and the pred alien breaks into a maternity ward and is depositing multiple things into pregnant women.
That's terrible.
Yeah, AVP Requiem doesn't pull punches. Like
but
it
you-
kills a
I
kid
mean-
first.
on the bright side, the unborn children probably serve as a great pre-chest bursting snack.
100%.
Well,
Like think about it. Then they're not even, maybe they're not so angry when they burst out of the chest. Maybe they're just like ready for a nap.
Well, can you imagine? So the
They're
parasite
already full.
the parasite of Mortrex was there was the medical examiner's thing that I read last episode that was hysterical because it was full of weird language. But that guy describes as like when these rippers come out of whatever the Mortrex leaves them in, they're bones. Like the rippers eat the entire carcass. They don't leave
Oh,
anything.
yeah.
But that's what rippers do. Rippers get super fat and happy, and then they run into a spawning pool, or not spawning pool, a digestion pool, and then they go up, and then they're reborn to eat again.
Yeah, it's adorable.
Hmm.
Cycle
The
of life.
buffet cycle of Las Vegas.
Yeah, it's like my
Next
my old
weekend.
cat Rudy, dude. Like their bellies get so big that it just like rubs their bellies raw. You know,
We
it's
get
like a
to
little
be-
pink belly.
We can be rippers next weekend.
We could.
Yeah.
We could actually be rippers.
Yeah.
So next up is the
Everything.
Malak, which is another of my favorite. So this subspecies
Come
this
up from the ground.
subspecies of the trigon are worm-like and blind, though they are incredibly agile despite their size. Their short claws are not suited for close combat. Rather, they are used to tunnel efficiently underneath the battlefield. Instead, they prefer to swallow their prey whole and digest it alive for several days. Malaks can gather information of the surface through pressure waves as they travel through solids and liquid-filled objects below the ground. When a Moloch begins to hone in on an enemy, severe tremors erupt from the surface, which the Moloch uses to pinpoint prey. If the sound is regular or rhythmic, it's easier for the Moloch to home in on. Even a heartbeat will tell it where its next meal is. So I like Molochs quite
It's
a
a
bit.
graboid.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sandworm.
Doggone graboid.
If you don't walk without rhythm, wait. If you
Nearly
walk,
got him.
if you
Walk
walk
without
rhythm, you won't attract the worm. Yeah, there we go.
Oh, that's interesting.
Wujuadim.
There are your obligatory Dune references in the 40k episode for today.
Mhm.
All right, then we have the Trigon. These powerful serpentine organisms tunnel behind enemy lines. Towering over even a Carnifex, Trigons are one of the most powerful Tyranid breeds in existence. Trigons can also become synapse creatures to control other Tyranids. They can lead a force of Tyranids known as a tunnel swarm, comprised of lictors and hormigons. The armor of a Trigon vibrates as it moves, creating a bioelectric current which can be released at will on a group of foes.
Yeah, they can like like energy blast
Static
things,
shock things.
which is crazy. So mucoloid spores, which are a orc thing, and mucoloid spores and spore mines, it's very easy to mix these up, but the difference is mucoloid spores are huge. These are rudimentary organisms filled with poisonous gases held under extremely high pressure, and instinct drives them to drift towards prey or up into the path of aircraft, where they detonate, spraying everything in a radius with nauseating poisoned filth while peppering everything with chitinous shrapnel.
Lovely.
I was just about to say that. Lovely.
And then their little brothers, spore mines.
Living mines or bombs which drift across the battlefield, denoting when they detect prey nearby. Those caught in the blast are torn apart in a similar fashion to frag grenades. Spore mines are often seeded before a battle for area
Denial.
denial. Okay.
So, I wrote these notes. So that's detonating, not denoting. Sorry, that's on me.
Detonating is the word that I would.
So on the tabletop, are they still as nasty as they were in like?
Oh yeah.
Right. So
they're nasty against the appropriate targets. Spore mines are nasty against guardsmen. They are nasty against Tau. They are nasty against. They're not really that effective against Space Marines.
So they've been toned down.
I mean, they're still nasty.
It's just a matter of
they can
their
do a
ideal
mortal.
target
Just
profile.
how many of them there are.
But they're 100% area denial. I don't use them that way. I use them through biovores, which is a different way to play them, which we'll get to. So next up is the Exo. So we're into heavy support. So next up we have the Exocrine. These huge, tough, and stupid bioforms' only task is to carry their dorsal cannon organism that is located on its back to an optimal firing position. This bioplasmic cannon emits a terrible high-pitched hiss before unleashing a searing blast of bioplasma capable of reducing tanks and bunkers to glassed, glowing craters. I love exocrines. They are nasty, huge biotitan things. I realize they're heavy support, but they feel to me like the smallest of the biotitans.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're essentially a small biotitan.
Yeah, they really are. And their guns nasty.
Like
Mm-hmm.
the big beetle booty bugs from Starship Troopers.
Yeah, the big plasma bugs.
I love how they have tiny little heads and then a giant like chest and a giant gun.
The head is not important.
Yeah,
No.
not in those.
Drive me. The
I
gun
love-
is like, hey, bro, drive me to where I need to shoot. That's your entire purpose.
I love that paint scheme though. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hive Fleet KTM is pretty cool.
If you guys want to know why we're reacting to that, those of you only listening, there is a video component on Patreon for $3 a month. You can see the pictures we're reacting to.
Then we have biovores. These bioforms serve as another form of living artillery, nurturing a clutch of spore mines within their own bodies. They anchor themselves into the ground with chitinous spurs before firing their live ammunition in high arcs, allowing the spore mines to drift slowly down into the midst of their foes.
This is the way that I use spore mines. Using biovores to plant a bunch of spore mines on the battlefield is awesome. If
and
you
very
get a direct,
frustrating.
yeah, if you get a direct hit, they're nasty. If you get an indirect hit, they deny like clear firing lanes or advancement. And I think you only have to end up like within 3 or 4 inches of them, and then they'll move towards you and detonate.
Yeah,
Oh,
They're pretty.
they're
that's awesome.
super frustrating. You just start firing them towards towards guardsmen, and then the guardsmen are like, "Well, I guess I'm just gonna stand here the whole game."
I guess I'm going to die right here. So Carnifexes, this is a tank-sized bioform that has been the mainstay of the Hive Fleets for centuries. Rugged and extremely adaptable, they are capable of playing host to a wide array of the hive mind's symbiotic weapon forms, which can be grafted to them for a wide array of different uses. Raw strength, durability, and ferocity are wrapped into a heavy chitinous armor. Carnifexes can smash through most defenses like the living battering rams they are designed to be. And we have 3 different flavors. The first being the Screamer Killer. This is an older strain of the Carnifex bioform. Screamer Killers are feared for their distinctive howl, which precedes the release of bioplasmatic blasts. They are also armed with massive foretalons and often deployed at the front of Tyranid assaults.
Then we have the Thornbacks. This Carnifex bioform is adapted to tear its way through massive infantry formations. Equipped with short-range bioweapons with massive rates of fire and protected by chitin that is blistering. What did you mean there?
Blistering.
Blistering.
Blistering, I guess? Yeah, blistering.
Yep, that works. Blistering. Go away. Blistering in rows of spines, which can also be unleashed in short-range attacks.
So their spines act like a pistol weapon, which is really it gives them essentially another attack in close combat, which is nice. But these are definitely this is the Carnifex that is way more effective against guardsmen than against Space Marines, essentially, which is weird because it's a Carnifex.
Well, sometimes you just gotta kill a whole bunch of men.
Right. My favorite Carnifex is the Stone Crusher. Carnifex bioform is adapted to demolitions in dense urban environments and to break open bunkers. They are equipped with specialized bioweapons like the Tail Mace, Stone Crusher Wrecking Ball, and Crushing Claws. They also have these big spikes on their backs, so when you charge with them, you can do a bunch of extra damage, which is really cool.
Is that a kit bash?
It looks like it.
No, this is the Forge World one.
Oh, it's like Muriel, get me mallet.
No, that's what the actual that's what the stone mace looks like. The stone mace, you probably haven't seen, not the stone mace. You probably haven't seen the wrecking ball a lot because the wrecking ball has never really been
Good.
better than the giant like crab claw things that it comes with. The crushing claws have always been way better. Basically, like even like 5th or 6th edition when it came out. They do look cool though. The fucking wrecking ball mace thing looks nasty.
Yeah, that looks fucking cool. I can't remember.
I just imagine it working like a pistol shrimp or something where it's just held under tension and then it just
smacks the shit out of you.
Yeah.
I just painted one of these guys.
The Hive Guard.
Yeah.
Oh, Hive Guard.
These bioforms protect Tyranid structures and are capable of unleashing salvo after salvo of intense firepower. These gun beasts are heavily armored in a shell-like carapace and have a body designed to be a stable firing platform for the massive impaler cannons bonded to their forelimbs. Physically linked to these shard beasts that comprise the ammunition of their cannons, Hive Guard can target enemies with unerring accuracy. Even those that they cannot directly see, they can, as long as they can receive sensory impressions from the sharp beast while it's in flight. So they fire it, and then they basically like sense what it sees, and they can redirect it when it's in the air.
Amazing.
They are nasty. They're indirect fire. There's a stratagem where you can have them fire twice in a round.
It's like a radar guided missile.
Yeah. 36 dice coming at you twice.
So theoretically, like a radar guided missile, if you were to kill said majigger,
then the little flying guys would lose guidance.
Well, they don't shoot them up into the air and then they come down later. They shoot them up into the air and they hit you the same turn.
No, I'm just speaking hypothetically.
Hypothetically, sure. If they fire them up and they get murdered first,
I'm
they
not
just
saying like
rain
shoot them
down,
straight
I
up in the
guess?
air and that they're supposed to rain down and aim that way. I'm saying like if it sees you from really far away and you're running and it's like, and I'm gonna fire over there and it'll more or less do the aim correction on its own, and then it takes an Exodus rifle to the dome from one of the assassins sees it, would then the little projectile continue in a straight line, or would it then,
You played Half-Life Deathmatch, right? The rocket launcher had the laser guided
Yeah,
system.
yeah.
And then somebody whacks you with a crowbar where you're laser
And then it
guarding
just goes
somewhere and
straight.
it just goes anywhere and detonates. That's what happens. It just
Yeah, that's
hits
what I was
something.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, at that point, it just loses guidance and continues off in a straight line.
All right. Next are the
You're
Tyrannofexes.
The Tyrannofexes, yes. This walking battle tank is a heavy weapons platform of huge size and resilience. Armored to go toe-to-toe with the heaviest of battle tanks, few foes can stand against even one of these.
These things are crazy cool. The reason I
they look
don't
cool.
have Trevigons is because the Trevigon and the Tyrannofex come in the same kit. And the Tyrannofex is they're crazy. They've got one of the longer ranged weapons in the army, and they're tank killers.
Yeah, definitely look cool. I thought they can take a couple things. I thought they had like a flamer as well.
Yeah, they can take shorter range weapons. They can take like a massive salvo weapon too, which is crazy. You can kit them out to be anti-infantry or anti-tank. I run them as anti-tank because I play a lot of Imperial Guard people.
Again, I really like that paint scheme.
Yeah.
Same paint scheme as that last one.
Mm-hmm.
It's like really like to me that one looks like that would be something you would see in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That coloring.
Yeah. All right. Here duels are large Tyranid bioforms around the size of an Imperial super heavy tank. Hiradul are a mutable breed able to be created in different forms depending on the needs of the Hive Fleet. We have some subtypes. We have the Scythe subtype, armed with 4 huge razor-sharp claws, each capable of slicing through a battle tank and heavily protected by chitin plates. These are far larger than a Carnifex. As well as its claws, the Hiradul also bears a symbiote creature which appears to live in its back, growing out between the armor plates. This toxic creature helps defend its host from attack, squirting a jet of potent mutagenic acid against any enemy that gets too close.
Yeah, they got like a flame attack before they whap the shit out of you with claws.
Yeah.
I love the body posture of it. It looks kind of like a raptor
Yes.
Yeah.
in Jurassic Park doing
Classic,
About to pounce.
Ornithosaurus-skian hip placement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, I see where Kevin is coming with the clever girl, and then you used science words.
I'm using my degree a little bit.
Yeah. But now I want to make
You got
a
to use it when
diorama.
you can, though.
I want to make a diorama of a guardsman like turning towards it and like, clever girl. Like, why would you say that to a Herodul ever?
Well, you need help with
Because you know you're already fucked and you're coping. That's how. It took me forever to figure out that that's why he said that. It's because he's a super competent hunter. He can hunt literally everything on the planet, and he got outsmarted, and his only coping mechanism is just to admit that it was smarter than him.
Yeah.
So next up is the barbed Herodul. This bioform replaces 2 of the scythed Herodul's claws with a pair of massive barbed strangler biocannons. Unlike the scythed variant, it has no symbiotic acid spray, but instead has thicker armor plates all over its body. They're also super nasty. They're super fun to run. I was so happy that they were actually playable.
Yeah.
They're not really anymore. I mean, they are, but it's such a point sink now.
Next, we're into the flying unit.
Gas
Yeah.
bag of doom.
All right.
Yeah.
This is the Tyrannocyte. huge heat-resistant spores that are adapted to endure atmospheric re-entry. Their wet, pulsing interior chambers act to house broods of warrior forms set to make planetfall. Once they disgorge their passengers, the Tyrannocyte once again drifts skyward, seeking out its own prey. So it's just a more fucked up drop pod.
Yeah, basically.
Yes.
It's a drop pod and a hot air balloon all in one.
And like every single Tyranid thing, there's some part of the description that's like, it's wet, glistening interior, it's moist blood passages. You're like, great.
I swear the Tyranids descriptions were written by people who like wanted to write erotica but didn't think there was any money in it.
Well, then they're 100%.
So this is what they write.
Yeah, they're 100% the body. Like, you're supposed
yeah,
to be
absolutely.
disgusted.
So are the people who wrote the Nurgle Codex. Like, go get help.
Oh
Yes. Yeah, I'm in agreement. You hear that, Rugen? You hear that, Rugen Dugan?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Nurgle's disgusting in bad ways, not good ways.
Yeah.
Not in the Slanesh ways.
Not in the Slanesh ways.
But like
No.
the ooh daddy Nurgle sentiment, it's real fuck. Like
I thought all the uwu was all over Space Wolves.
Emmy's my new best friend. Down with Nurgle.
The first time somebody uwooed me, when they Subaru uwooed me, I was like, get out. Because I drive a Subaru. I'm like, get out.
You need to get the little waifu stickers and put them on there so you can really
that-
drive a Subaru uwu.
The best one that I've seen is the Audi uwu, the Adu uwu. That's the new one. People making fun of Audi drivers.
they can be a little ooh about it, for sure.
Next one, which is the Hive Crone. These bioforms scour the skies of a world for the prey species fighter craft. Their tentaclids pursue enemy aircraft before exploding in bioelectric pulses which destroy electronic systems. Drool cannons can be used in long diving attacks to strafe ground targets. So their tentaclids are like little creatures that actually hang on to the underneath of their wings and act as missiles. But they're EMP missiles, which is fucking horrifying. They don't destroy you outright. They
fire electric eels at you.
Yeah, and then your airplane just stops flying and crashes. Like, you don't even get that instant death. You get that
Oh God, we're all gonna die.
I can't even eject. That's the death you get. You get the I can't even eject death.
Now, knowing Imperial spacecraft,
Poor goose.
does one
Aerocraft, not spacecraft. This would be like lightnings and
true.
Poor goose. Not again.
Conversation still standing. Aeronautica craft. Do you suppose that due to the backwards nature of Imperial technology, that the flight control surfaces are actually not electrically controlled?
I imagine some of them probably are, but also looking at them, I would say that these tentaclids probably put most of them into a flat spin.
Oh yeah, I mean just the weight imbalance in general of having a giant tentacle slapped onto the side of your airplane is probably not pleasant for the flight experience.
No.
I was just thinking like it's probably worse for Tau.
Yeah.
Like where there's a lot more electronics, like a Tau little aircraft would probably just come spiraling out of the sky.
Have you ever seen a model of what are they? A Valkyrie? Have you ever seen inside? They're full of all sorts of little buttons and controls.
Yeah, but
You
so
just
is
say
a
they're
Russian.
mechanical?
No. I'm saying the flight control surfaces. So
It's all fly by wire, buddy.
I don't
It's nothing
think
but
it
the
is.
finest for the guard.
So most subsonic aircraft don't rely on electronics. They rely on glide ratio. Most supersonic aircraft, which is all aircraft that you can field in 40K, 100% rely on electronics and jets. Most jets don't have really good glide ratio because without that massive engine forcing them to go that fast, they don't fly real well.
Oh yeah, because they got tiny little wings.
Yeah. And that probably goes all the way across everything.
Oh yeah, I was just thinking. I was like, I feel like some of the guard flyers
They probably do.
would
but they
probably survive the EMP part. They'd lose all avionics and everything else, but the flight characteristics they would still have. They'd still have authority, but everything else would be dead. Still suck.
These are crazy. I'd love to have one. And their drool cannon is like literally a cannon coming out of its mouth. Hive crones can't land. They don't have feet. Herodins are the same. They also don't have feet. They just never land. They're birthed.
I have
into
more
the
fun
atmosphere.
thinking of them as like seals.
So
Nice.
Like that's how it would take
They
off
just
and like
flop
bounce
around on the ground.
It would bounce forward for a little bit until it got enough like rebound on the bounce to get in the air to flap.
That's great. But no, they're entirely born. They're birthed into the air. They live in the air. They probably crash themselves into digestive pools when they're
that's
done.
what I was gonna say. They just crash landing right into it.
Probably
Yeah,
fight until
probably.
they die, and that's just what it is.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of Tyranid stuff. The Tyranids aren't really into,
Yeah, most of them.
You don't
aren't-
get a field promotion.
Well, the Tyranids, a lot of them aren't really even designed to digest food. They don't have like a
Most of them
digestive system.
Most
they
of them
can
eat
but-
and store food, but it's pretty much just to take it to the digestional pools.
Yeah, it's not really for self-nourishment.
The only time that their self-nourishment comes into place is when the hive tendril is defeated and they have to go into hiding.
And then it probably a metabolic shift or something occurs.
Yeah, there's a weird. It's in some of the lore. They essentially have the very similar like stomachs in air quotes to insects because insects don't really
right.
have
They have a
stomachs
communal
either.
stomach. Yeah.
It's like the same thing. So
Yeah.
harpies are next. These flying bioforms are incredibly natural. Have incredible natural agility, which allows them to outmaneuver most airborne prey. They are sent in with the first waves of the swarms to bomb and strafe ground targets. So this is a ground denial aerial vehicle.
Mm.
Your Cass.
They're crazy looking too. Again, can't land. No way for this to land.
Mm.
Really, really nasty to air units, though.
Then we have the sporocysts. Orbital weapons that dig into the surface of the world like ticks before spewing toxic spores from their living chimneys. They release shoals of mucoid spores and are able to pepper anything near to them in hails of organic projectiles from the biocannon grafted onto their hides.
Yeah, these
No.
are nasty. These are one of the ones that start the digestion of the planet.
These are related to my favorites.
That thing is crazy looking.
There it
Right.
is, the Hierophant Biotitan.
Yeah, so we are on to the big boys. So the first of the Biotitans is the Hierophant. These Biotitans are immense, hideous creatures towering over the battlefield and bristling with spines, tendrils, and other symbiote weapons. They are amongst the largest bio-creatures yet encountered amongst the swarm of Tyranid Hive Fleets, comparable in size and power to Imperial Titans. Armed with massive biocannons, multiple claws and chitin blades, and armored with thick chitinous hides that exude poisonous spores from wrens in the plates. In addition, the creature's vulnerable belly region is protected by spiny tendrils, which latch out at any enemy who gets too close. These tendrils are capable of impaling or strangling with incredible force. As a last defense, the Hierophant is equipped with poisonous sacs that exude gas lethal to non-Tyranid creatures. So even hurting them hurts you. And they're huge. They are legitimately huge. I
As
have seen one in person. They are the size of those like crazy ass Japanese crabs.
As cool looking as they are, this is one of the ones that I have an issue with because science-wise, it doesn't work. Somebody did some math on one.
Neither
And
does
just-
an Imperial Titan though.
No.
For the exact same problem, an Imperial Titan would be too massive to exist.
Yeah, but they can always just say that there's anti-gravity in them, and they kind of imply that they have that.
So there's anti-gravity inside the Biotitan. There's
But
an
that's not
organism that
not
makes
the problem.
anti-gravity.
That's not the problem with it. Is the actual like caloric release to move something that large, it would burst into flames.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. Is that to move something like that under its own muscle mass with those spindly little legs would generate more heat than it could contain, and it would burst into flames.
Anti-fire technology.
That's my gripe with it. That's my gripe. It's just those little legs are too skinny, It looks really cool and menacing, like a really creepy spider. But to only have 3 of those itty bitty legs,
They've got 4 of them, but
oh, does it? Yeah.
yeah.
But even so, they just need to be a little bigger.
Oxygen like we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is some other element in this part of the galaxy that,
Or it could
yeah.
Or it
Yeah.
could be like the zonothropes and the neurothropes, where there's so much warp energy around it that
That
it's
it's
not really
like
walking.
partially levitating.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe too. It's only in that pose because it'd be too large of a model and break too much if it was just on 2 legs.
Oh yeah, Kevin. How do you explain giraffes? Huh? Tell me the science behind that.
A giraffe isn't that big.
But if it were,
It wouldn't function.
I don't know.
It would probably collapse under its own weight.
That doesn't sound sciencey to me.
Just like
I don't
how
know.
bugs could actually never get that big due to the fact that they can't absorb oxygen fast enough.
They're not bugs.
I know. I'm just saying, in addition to why a giraffe wouldn't function if it got larger, current bugs on Earth could not function at that size either.
I'm surprised.
Then
a giraffe
explain
even
Starship
functions.
Troopers, Kevin.
Hey, you
I
So
know,
so
I know
here
that
it is.
movie is like the Word of God.
Herodins are
It's
next.
just a
You
movie,
should
though.
tread carefully, Kevin.
But this-
tread carefully with the next words you say.
But
It's a
Marky and I
movie.
had this conversation earlier. You know why we all in this conversation like science fiction?
It's because it bends the facts.
Exactly.
Oh yeah,
Bends
that's why I
the
said it's
rules.
awesome. Like the monsters are badass. It looks really mean and menacing. I just have that one gripe with it, and that's the one that I have that gripe with. The rest of them, I can kind of wave it. That's the one that looks too spindly for me.
So next we have Herodins.
Flying. It's a wyvern.
Also known as the Brooding Mother, this is the largest flying Tyranid bioform yet encountered. Circling high above, soaring on the warm thermals of battle on its great outstretched leathery wings, the Herodin waits patiently before diving down onto the battlefield, strafing its foes with biocannons or swooping low to rake a tank with its 2 massive claws, or snapping its massive fanged jaws around an infantryman. Their fearsome armament means that they are capable of attacking most targets, and the high-speed impact of its 2 main claws are capable of punching through most armor.
I think it's great that it's like an anti-tank weapon, and they snuck into the wording, or eat an infantryman. Like, why? Just hit it with your mouth. You don't have to eat it.
You're learning stuff.
I do think that's a really cool model from Forge World.
These models look dope, and I don't think
Oh,
they're
that thing looks
produced
super
anymore.
cool.
But these
What the hell
things
is that
look
thing?
dope. This is a Dactylus. These are a larger genetic variant of the Tyranid biovore. They fire spore mines at very long ranges. Their forelimbs are long and covered in tightly corded tendons and muscles that makes a distinctive cracking sound when used to hurl its deadly payload. Their living ammunition is a parasitic creature which feeds off the toxins emitted by the poison glands inside the Dactylus's cranium. In recent encounters, this cranial gland has been grown to create a variety of spore colonies that can be used to produce a number of different types of deadly ammunition chosen for their particular utility against specific types of foes. So this is the Earthshaker Basilisk of...
Yep.
That's the Tau fighter. That's the Tau alien right there.
Yeah, these things look sick. I really, really want one. They don't make them anymore, but I really, really want one. They look cool. eBay, here I come.
I think that's a cool looking model. That's the thing for killing Tau.
All right,
That's
I got
the
this
Tau
next
model.
one.
You got it? Uh-oh.
The Dominatrix, the Norn Queen's link to the Tyranid ground forces. They are huge monsters, almost as large as a Bio-Titan and stronger. A more physically powerful female hive tyrant. They are symbiotically fused with a smaller warrior-sized entity which acts as a psychic. Synaptic link to the linked Northern Queen synaptic link to the linked Norn Queen aboard her ship.
So there is a female variant of the Hive Tyrant, which is larger than a normal Hive Tyrant. So a normal Hive Tyrant does not have a gender, but the Norn Queen can make a female Hive Tyrant, which has the capability of birthing units on field, and they are bigger and stronger than normal Hive Tyrants. So this thing is essentially bigger and stronger than those. There is no other information about female Hive Tyrants other than they are big, and that Dominatrix is bigger than them. That's it. That's what you get. Yep. Sorry, no more lore. Lore has run out. So last up, we have the Norn Queen itself. Gargantuan bioforms that are biomechanical wombs given over to birthing all other forms of known Tyranid life. They can biochemically and genetically manipulate biomass in infinite ways to create new organisms to serve any function the Tyranid race requires. The Norn Queens are housed in huge rooms aboard the Hive ships. Each room is hundreds of meters high, filled with only a single Norn Queen. So they are massive. They are probably many times larger than a Hierophant. No official model or official art exists for the Norn Queen. I think the main reason is they probably look like the inside of whatever Hive ship they're part of. Mm-hmm. And since Hive ships are basically like massive bioorganic creatures themselves, like there's no way that a Norn Queen is going to look like another one. However, there are some really, really cool Kit Bash Norn Queen ideas. We'll finish it up by running through a couple of the Hive Fleet bioships.
Hive ships, massive bioorganic ships that form the heart of the Hive Fleets. They act as telepathic synapse nodes for the rest of the ships around them, while also serving as biofactories that churn out an endless tide of Tyranid warrior forms. They are impossibly large living creatures that incorporate millions of bioengineered organisms. They are covered in stone like chitin and bristling with bioweapons, making them fearsome in void battles.
So there's a specific type or a specific named one called the Ancient One. This gigantic Tyranid bioship was encountered by the Imperium shortly after the 13th Black Crusade. Enormously powerful and serving as the hive mind mothership, the creature was encountered in the Menschurino Trench of space before being engaged by Admiral Spire. So this is from the Battlefleet Gothic 2 game.
Admiral Spire's a G.
So next up there's a bunch of these that we're just going to kind of go over and cover what they're linked to. The first one is the Devourers.
So Devourers, the battle cruiser or heavy cruiser analog bioship with several different variants found in Tyranid Hive Fleets. The Void Prowlers.
Using that other pronunciation.
Yeah, that Tyranid. The Void Prowlers, light cruiser analog bioships found in Tyranid Hive Fleets. Razor Fiends. I want to say it's cruisier.
Cruiser.
It's cruiser.
Cruiser-sized bioships that
Ryan don't know how to spell good.
That's okay. We don't pay you to spell.
Cruiser-sized bioships that are a mix of overgrown escort drones and a immature hive ship. Aggressive in their attack, they storm out of the heart of a fleet in response to any threat. These often are the main fighting cruiser of the fleet and are never found far from hive ships.
So hive ships are like all of this is grown. So it starts as a smaller organism and gets bigger. Razor Fiends are like the babies.
I'm grown. Krakens escort analog bioships found in the Tyranid Hive Fleets. These scout ships are often encountered in giant swarms. Hive ships have been witnessed giving birth to Krakens during battle. These ships pose no threat to planets, as they are specifically used in space battles. Escort drones, heavily armored, destroyer analog escorts that serve as the last line of defense for a fleet's hive ship. The Vanguard drone ship, destroyer analog, a long-range scout ship for the Hive Fleet. They range far ahead of the main fleet, seeking out worlds suitable for consumption and potentially seeding them with gene stealers or lictors. They are rarely in contact with other fleets, only returning to replenish or report. And some of my favorites, the Narvals. This is a unique Tyranid bioship that allows Tyranid Hive Fleets to traverse interstellar space by warping space-time between the origin and destination star systems. Tyranids don't travel through the warp. but still travel through the void at incredible rates. Unlike most bioships, they are almost completely defenseless, possessing almost no bioweaponry, only have a very thin protective carapace. A cluster of monofilament spines on the narval's bow allow it to take it a wide variety of sensory input, including a broad spectrum of gravimetric and electromagnetic signals. With these sensors, they can detect new planetary systems at an extreme interstellar distance. In some unknown manner, it then makes use of the origin star system's own gravity and creates a compressed space-time transit corridor through the narval and the other Tyranid bioships that can traverse interstellar distances, essentially controlling black hole technology.
I always kind
gnarly.
of pictured it as like whenever they talk about gravity, you always see like that graph with like the dent in the middle of it.
Yep.
I always imagined them putting that dent in front of their ship, so it's essentially they're just falling towards that what is down in that dip is forwards to them, and so they're constantly falling down forwards.
It's so gnarly. I love them. Love narvals.
This form of space warping travel cannot be used near strong gravitational sources as they overwhelm the narval's hypersensitive navigational senses. As a result, a Tyranid Hive fleet must use more conventional forms of biologically induced reaction-based propulsion during the final approach to a new star system, which can slow their arrival by Terran years or even entire solar decades. While this form of propulsion is ultimately slower, without a reliance of the warp drive, it is a great deal more reliable and allows Tyranids to move impeccably, if slowly, across the galaxy. So they can't move as quickly as a warp drive capable ship can, but they're always going to get to their destination. They're not going to fucking vanish. Rebirther vessels are next. These are fucking weird. This is a unique void-faring creature that resides in the shadow of the Hive ships of Hive Fleet Dagon specifically, no larger than a frigate-class Imperial craft with no obvious external armaments. This, oddly, is far less psychic communications than other Hive ships and other creatures with the Hive Fleet, so it doesn't really communicate that much. Instead, it focuses all of its psychic activity on the target's planet's surface, where it launches smaller than usual mycetic spores, which seem to carry previously slain Tyranid commanders back into battle. So a rebirth, like if the Swarmlord dies, the rebirther shoots another Swarmlord out into this same place. Because fuck you, apparently.
Oh, you killed one? I have an app for that. Here, have another.
Right. Yeah. No thanks. More swarm lords.
Resembling large leeches, boarding worms fulfill the Tyranid role of an assault boat. Launched from bioships, boarding worms latch onto enemy vessels and chew their way into its hull before disgorging a complement of smaller Tyranid organisms. Boarding worms are capable of carrying anything from standard small combatant species to even a Carnifex.
They're boarding torpedoes.
It's a boarding torpedo.
It's a munchy eel.
Bores on in and disgorges a swarm
Does so much damage. We didn't get to talk about my favorite Tyranid.
What's your favorite Tyranid?
My favorite Tyranid is hardly a Tyranid because it's more like a building. It's the Capillary Tower.
Oh, yeah, we talked about Capillary Towers in episode 2.
Yeah. But I really like Capillary Towers for several reasons. I think it's cool that they specifically grow a creature whose job is just to fuck up the planet more.
Yeah, I think I described it as a huge phallic
digest it.
Huge phallic structure that essentially fucks the planet.
Yeah,
into oblivion.
It fucks the planet, and then it's where the straw from the bioship comes down and anchors itself.
It just sucks all of the biomass out of the planet.
Yeah. Well, it becomes basically the
straw.
The straw.
Yeah.
The straw comes down from orbit from the bioship and connects to this. This sucks up the goo pool that everything else kind of has become. And then at the very end,
fucking atmosphere.
Yeah, including the water. It goes biomass, water, then atmosphere, and then at the last, at the very last end of it all, devours itself and sucks itself up.
God,
and then
that's
it's just
crazy.
gone.
Yeah.
It's like what are they? The bloodworms or something like that, where they have like that.
They'll turn themselves inside out.
Yeah, they
Go,
essentially
wait, what?
throw their stomach out and then
Yep.
suck it back in.
Oh yeah. Those things at the bottom of the ocean that shoot out their butthole.
I do like that photo. For those of you that can see it, all the tendrils coming down to all those little spots
Yep.
to suck up from the chimney.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
It's horrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a good
capillary
image.
towers are crazy, and like everything else, they're called capillary tunnels. Like we have capillaries in our bodies, like that's a thing.
And the fact
Everything
that
is
then they're all connected
bioorganic
via like
ickiness.
roots and everything too
It's gnarly.
makes them even cooler. Yeah.
And their roots will dissolve and get minerals too. Like they'll
Yeah.
go after useful metal and they'll suck it up as well. It's crazy. So yeah, that'll wrap it up for our faction coverage on the Tyranids. Usually we try to wrap up with a little bit of a roundtable, but there were a lot of bioforms to get through.
And we kind of
So-
round-tabled as we went.
Yeah,
We did.
tried to give you as much of that feel as we could. If you want to get into contact with us about lore or your short stories or even your spooky stories, we do have another another Loris Obscurus episode coming up on the Dark Forest. Reach out to us at email at either underthehiveofmadness@gmail.com or jimdarkgaming@gmail.com. You can also get into contact with us by joining our growing Discord community. Not only can you talk to us about lore, hobby, tactics of Warhammer 40k, we also talk about Magic the Gathering. We've had a lot of talks about the role-playing nuts stuff that's been going on with Wizards of the Coast and the open gaming license recently. Pretty much anything in the geeky gaming world, we are there. If you would like to connect with Emmy, you can find her at...
Coral Pecan on TikTok, Instagram. That's really, yeah, and of course Mythic Gaming on Twitch TV. Every Tuesday night you can watch me play Commander.
And we're trying to put up links to her games on Tuesday nights in community content and in our announcements. But yeah, we'll put spellings for Emmy's stuff down in our show notes. Emmy, again, we always love having you. Hopefully we can get you back for another episode. I know we didn't talk about Zotes today. We are definitely talking about Zotes coming up because we have a lot of Zote stuff to talk about. You can find us also around Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or at our website, underthehiveofmadness.com. If you'd like to help the podcast grow, you can like and review us wherever you get your podcast fix. Our home is Anchor and Spotify, but we are also on Apple, Google, Stitcher, Audible. If it exists and I know about it and I figured out how to register us, we were registered there. If I did not name off your favorite podcast platform, please email me and I will fix it as soon as possible. You can find us over on Patreon as well. It's www.patreon.com/underthehiveofmadness. All Patreon members get access to a video podcast with minimal editing, so you can see our beautiful faces and hear all of our amazing blunders, which there are a couple today. All Patreon levels also get access to our quarterly painting contest, plus we have perks at higher levels, so go over and check it out. The Cracked Elysium, your number one source for all things electro-death, syntho-punk, and grindcore. Keep locked in here to 665.66 Chemrat Radio for information on all your favorite Underhive rockers. Descending upon us and trying to stop our signal, no matter how deep underground they've forced us or how large that shadow over the warp they cast. We are your light of truthiness in the uncertain, frosty cold of the long night. 665.66 UHMR Chemrat Radio. Reminding all of you Chemrats, Hive Mice, and Sump Ghoulies to keep those dials fixed right here. Same ratty frequency for the dose of the same ratty-ass attitude. Remember, the forbidden romance between a rat and a gene stealer only produces the finest in four-armed emperors.
That's perfect.
Like a fucking car salesman. All right.
It's good. I'd buy it.